Hey, everybody, welcome to session 8 of Well of the Worlds. Tonight's session is To the City of Stone and Steel. Uh, and Tonight we have Ashling. A- Ashlyn? Man, I even write it down so I know how to pronounce it. Ashlyn, Jack the Scavenger Bird, Edgar Patterson, Freya Sullivan, Lamar Merriweather the Third, and Roland Morris, PhD. Let's see. Let's go a quick review of last session. Last session, you had left Ashcam in your skiff, which is what the Sky People Skyraft got renamed, and our heroes decided to head sunward toward the city of Stone and Steel. As the skiff moves faster than most horses can run and never gets tired, the Great Trade Road was traversed fairly easily. However, at one point, three large birds blocked the road. They were later determined to be called ripping birds, an appropriate name as they were 8 to 10 feet tall with heavy raptor like beaks and sharp claws. Lamar scared them off by jumping on the prow of the skiff and basically yelling and demonstrating. But one of them did give angry peck to the skiff, which clacked pretty loudly on the armored shell. And I think Edgar may have been like, don't break. No, sorry, it's Roland. Which one of you controls it? I completely forgot. It's Roland. That's right.
That would be
Yeah,
me.
Roland's probably like, don't you dare break my ride. Um, so during one of your breaks, because anybody who has done like me, driven 10 hours to Gen Con, you got to get out of the car every now and then and walk around. So during one of your breaks, looking for water and other such things, Edgar came across a chimney or vent sticking out of the ground. It was determined the chimney or the shaft went deep under the ground and connected to a vast cavern full of machinery. It also seemed to emit some sort of substance from four vents up near the top, and it was capped to keep stuff from getting into it. Now, while everyone else was investigating the chimney, Ashlyn came across the fragment of a building sitting on top of like plant life and everything. So it was not built there. It had appeared on top of things. Obviously, a modernish make because the materials were not like wood and stone. It was concrete and metal and wires and other such items. You could see that inside the building or the fragment of building, there were several boxes and four autonomous sentry turrets, which talked in a cute voice, asked you to come over closer. Um, and they seemed kind of entertaining until they opened fire on, among other people, Lamar. And Edgar, using his powers, was able to grab a box and discovered that within a box was an unassembled and unprogrammed turret, which he's now made his. While passing a long lake that paralleled the Great Trade Road, Freya spotted two what turned out to be water people in the middle of the lake. This resulted in our heroes arriving at the trading post of the marked fields. There they met a number of people. Most importantly, Flowing Hill, Great Hero, and Wise in the Ways of Water, members of the hunting, swimming, and water people, who apparently worked as a triumvirate to oversee how that trading post was operated. And you have never seen swimming or water people before until now, so that was yet two new peoples. You had heard about water people, and if they were in a pool of water or body of water, that's at least up in Ashcam and Fearcat, that's thought good luck because that means there's no dangerous predators in there. Although they had a pet called Swims Forward, uh, which was just this immense sturgeon-like heavy scaled fish that looked like it came out of the Amazon. Um, but Lamar was not at all intimidated and went swimming. Eventually, dinners was had, stories were told, information was gained, and everyone prepared to cross the border into a place called Varava, a land that you was said to be of laws, lords, and guards. They were also told that the city of stone and steel is ruled by someone named Bouquet of Flowers, who stands twice as tall as any other person and is immortal. This is something you've somewhat heard before. Every time as you get closer, apparently the narrative telephone gets a little bit more accurate. accurate. And that is where we stand. I believe you are all preparing the next day to leave, I presume, and continue down the road to this city or this nation or this border. And now I leave open the floor to you.
All right, so I have something I want to try before we set out.
I'm coming to really hate those words.
Well, I realized something. The sky people have a communication device on the skiff. Can't be used, but I might be able to hijack it so we can use it as a antenna so we can make phone calls to each other.
Wouldn't something like... I mean, I could pull out some walkie-talkies out of my bag. That'd work just the same, and it wouldn't need to be messing with technology you don't understand.
You could do that, but we already have the phones, we already have the skiff.
And you don't know how they work or if they can track you if you use them.
It was a suggestion.
It was a good
I'm
one.
all for it.
I'm sure you are.
Can you charge my Kindle? I never thought about that.
I have a solar charger in my stuff.
Oh.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah. How do you think my phone still works?
Are those common? Like, I've never even heard of that before. How is that? Okay, sure.
Oh, I don't think it's a common piece of technology, but I spend a lot of time camping, so it's a useful piece of technology.
Sounds like it.
Yeah, it's not really every day. Freya says I overpack.
Yeah. I mean, my tablet still works.
That's even before the whole magic bag thing happened. I had one.
Yeah, it's third pocket left side. You can hook your Kindle up while we fly.
Thank you. I'll do that. I had a random question for y'all as we were doing this with these weird. What did you do? What was your job? Roland, I know your job very well, right? You were a professor and you had magic and now you have magic. What did the rest of you do? Because, like, are these things, these abilities, whatever, related to our jobs? Because with Roland, that makes sense. And Lamar, what were you doing? Like, were you...
I was a content creator.
A content creator.
Yeah, on Twitch and YouTube and like TikTok and stuff.
Did you do like sword things?
Yeah, and choreograph, like fight, recreating anime fight scenes and dancing to those TikTok dances and whatnot, and just live streaming.
So see, and you have like sword powers now. I wonder, do you have dance powers too? Anyway, something to investigate another time, but maybe. But yeah, what about Freya and Ava? Like, what did you all do? And are your abilities related to that as well?
Ashlyn's the character, Ava's the player.
I said Ava. Sorry, Ashlyn.
I'm a journalist.
You're a journalist, okay.
A photojournalist.
So you're like a paparazzi?
No, not like the paparazzi. Like,
No, she's definitely got more class than the Paps.
Thank you.
Are you sure?
I would go to like other countries and do stories on, wars that were breaking out and injustices that were happening in these other countries.
Like a war journalist. That's really interesting. And I'm not super clear on what you see things. I'm not super clear on what you, but it seems to be related to information, right? Or information gathering. So maybe there is something there.
I don't know what you're talking about.
That's fair.
I'm curious how you got the fact that I was an archaeologist with me having magic. Granted, that was my field of study, but
talked about
That's
it a
what
lot.
he was.
you talked about the digs and the magic, and you're very excited about this. If you go back a little bit, it was very.
Yeah, you're right.
It was yeah. You shared your excitement on discovering the magic was real. I think was what you shared a lot during that. And
Fair
Ashlyn,
enough.
what about you? You have a bag.
Yeah, I didn't really do a whole lot. I mean, I worked with like veterinary offices occasionally. I'd volunteer there, and a writer.
That is interesting. Okay, that's one we'll have to figure out. Okay, I
Okay.
wonder.
I mean, she overpacks according to what they've both said. So, magic bag, overpacking.
One's a Freya.
That's
Hey, you know what?
I just like being prepared for any scenario.
I don't blame you.
And
I
you
like being
are
prepared for any scenario.
always prepared for everything.
See, when you say it like that, it doesn't sound like a good thing.
I mean, it is.
I
it is
have
good.
learned. I have learned because of this trip that it is a very good thing. So I will never give you shit for it again.
You seem like the type who watches a lot of those disaster shows, but that means you know what to do in event of a disaster. So, yeah.
You
So
should
that is
see her
interesting.
books.
Books?
Yes.
Oh no. Okay, that's interesting.
She'll actually reach into her bag and pull out How to Stay Alive in the Woods. And it's got all kinds of tabs and marked pages.
That seems super relevant. Okay. So it may be not job related, but something like that. There's something that seems related to something that something about us.
Right, but how does that explain yours? You were
I don't know.
an archivist, right?
I'm trying to figure that out too. I don't know. That's why like some of them seem really obvious, like the magic and the sword fighting and maybe dance powers. We don't know. We haven't seen yet. But I haven't really been able to figure out mine. Or I guess yeah. Okay. That I was wondering. Thanks.
I mean,
you ever-
usually in these sort of things, it's some kind of wish fulfillment. So it might take a little bit more than just a surface look at things to figure out why you got what you got.
Yeah, that is interesting. Now I can't get dance powers out of my head. Shoot. All right. I'm gonna be watching you a lot.
I mean, I can already. I'm already pretty pretty magical on my feet.
Mm-hmm.
And he does like a little. He does like a little. Chris has no idea what the hell it's called, but you know that little thing where he spins those back legs up in the air. Does that daily.
So you
You're
did some
awake.
breakdancing.
All right. So next stop, we're heading towards. So your communication thing, whether or not it's your magic communication antenna or it's something else, is that something that we should set up? Ordinarily we're together a lot, but of course we can split up. And recently, I remember somebody wandered off to laser turret, so that might have been a useful time to have some kind of cell phone or texting
I did
mechanism.
not wander off into any laser turret. I was leaving it alone.
That's true. That is true. You're not the one
Lamar
who.
is the one that poked at it.
That is
What
absolutely
did you do?
So
Mark
I
up.
mean, walkie-talkies would probably be a good substitute. I was just thinking that communication would be a good thing for us to have.
What do you think, Ashlyn? I think you're in charge of that, I would guess.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
really, really hate to agree with Roland, but being able to communicate with each other is probably a good idea.
I am hurt by that.
You'll get used to it.
I was gonna say,
over it.
no, I was expecting you to say that about Lamar, so that was a surprise to me as well. Okay, yeah, walkie-talkies, charging, and all that stuff. I assume in your over preparedness and I guess normal preparedness, you would have a way to deal with that. So that seems like a smart idea.
So is it like a warehouse or is it like a Star Trek replicator? Like, do you just replicate it? Have you ever heard of Star Trek?
Are you talking about my bag?
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Is there like an A? Can your computer can you make like an AI in it, and then ask it if that's what's happening?
I've tested it a little bit, and it seems like I can only pull out something that I'm already familiar with, I guess.
I mean, it's similar to the fact that I can only cast magic if I can come up with some sort of quote I've seen in a movie or a TV show.
And I tend to just do anime slashes that I've seen before. Okay, okay, I see you. So what are you? So what are you copycatting down there, Meanie? What's your? Oh, Freya.
Sorry, did you just call Freya meanie?
Yeah, I've totally blanked on her name for a second, and then Meanie was the next thing that popped into my head. So I just went with it.
It feels
it's
like
fine.
something.
I'm not copying anything.
I mean, imitation is what was the surest or the
Sincerest form of flattery.
I can't help it if you're not original enough to come up with your own stuff. I'm not copying anything. I don't have any woo woo powers like you do.
You don't have any. He gives you like the bombastic side eye, like. Okay, then.
I don't know what you're talking about. I don't have any magic powers.
Alrighty. Suit yourself.
And if I did, I wouldn't be copying anybody. I would be original.
Okay. Go off, Queen, and he's gonna go take his sword, and he's gonna start trying to do the flying blade technique towards like trees we're passing.
The flying blade technique?
Oh yeah, it's where you slash so fast that you create a condensed blade of air that flies towards your target.
Oh, okay. Well, in China, we call that sword energy.
Nice. So he's just like, not quite.
Keep that in mind, Lamar.
Cool beats.
All right, so Ashley, do you remember what the money looks like, right?
Yeah, I saw some of it.
We're probably going to need some of that to get through the toll gate.
Colgate? I got my toothpaste in my bag over here. He calls out from the front. I totally heard Colgate. What'd you say?
Yeah, we'll see what it is when we get to the gate.
Fair enough. About how long are we traveling from the trading post to get to the toll?
Toll gate.
My notes say it's about 1 day sunward.
But at the rate the skiff travels, that's like an hour.
Fair.
So the whole conversation takes like an hour.
Oh, so we're there.
Now, is this before you get on the vehicle, or is this while you're on the vehicle?
Most likely while we're on it.
Yeah.
I was going to say then, because I thought maybe you were all getting ready to leave, because one of the things you discover is that while you have overnight, your skiff has become sort of a jungle gym for the younger element of the trading post. So since there's probably a scene where I don't know how protective Roland is of his skiff, but you have a bunch of Earth terms like 3 to 8 year olds playing like all around, and fortunately they can't make anything work, but they're climbing and playing on this neat toy jungle gym structure because it's new and different, and of course Roland, you come out and see a bunch of kids all hanging out on it, and then they kind of scatter once you start loading it up.
I mean, I would need to check it for damage. Make sure. I don't think they can damage it, but like check it, make sure it's clean, and then as long as we weren't using it, so.
Well,
mean,
yeah,
good
you
for
know,
them.
there is a mark. There's sort of a mark on the front where that bird pecked at it, and the kids maybe they're bare. They have bare feet. You know, they're not really. Most of them aren't really wearing shoes, so they've kind of tracked like footprints on it from where they've been running around in the dirt and everything. Uh, but they haven't really damaged it in any way. You don't think, as you said, they probably can't. Um, but it's just a little humorous. I mean, maybe others might find it humorous, but you may be like, my car.
Tumor says you forgot to change the turret to non-lethal. I'm just kidding.
Damn kids.
And oh wow, no, I didn't. Oh
Um,
geez, I could have done
it-
that. Your jinx, they could have like turned the damn thing on.
Oh no.
I gotta save that jinx for later. Um, there is, of course, that moment too that like they didn't get into the box with the turret in it. No, they didn't. But you get the vehicle going. It's hovering. It goes out across the lake. You get onto the road. This long conversation occurs about what people did and why they have powers and techniques and abilities. And then there's the question about the money, which you have seen. It comes. You understand that there is a variety of coins: tin, iron, silver, gold. They mostly showed you what is at the bottom end of apparently the scale because they don't really see the other stuff much. And uh, the vehicle, as I noted, has, I believe it's 40 of running or hover,
Speed. Yeah.
flight hovering. So that's 25 miles an hour. And you, as noted, I mean, it's faster than walking. And anybody used to a car, 25 miles is actually an hour is kind of slow. But in this case, not so much. And with less than an hour, you have left the trading post behind, and you quickly realize that you're approaching a pair of short towers. Probably no more than 2 stories, maybe 2.5 stories tall, using the idea that a Earth story is about 10 feet. And then there's a wall that goes from either one of these out a bit, but it doesn't go all that far. And there looks to be buildings behind it, probably like a barracks and such. And it flanks the Great Trade Road. And believe it or not, they actually have like a wooden gate. Now the road is very wide, and the gate, each wing of the gate's about 25 feet and is set on like a hinge, and there's like a wooden wheel so that they can open it and back and forth. And you see 6 individuals sort of clustered around looking kind of bored, but they are more heavily armored than the Huskarls that you saw at Mashcam. They have the same general mail coat, which is knee length and elbow length, but over that, they have solid steel breastplates and backplates, helmets of a different style, more tapering in the back, long spears, which are used with both hands, and belt, boots, clothing underneath that. And there's an individual in the full armor as well, but has a long sword on their belt, not a spear. And you can tell as you get closer and closer, he steps out while the other guards are kind of settled out behind the fence, the gate, I'm sorry. And you can see he is one of the furred people. He has a silvery gray pelt and blue-black hair that sort of pokes out from under his helmet. And he gets this body language as he watches you come moving up, where he's sort of like tilting his head. And at one point, he's looking like he's trying to count on his fingers and looking at what you have. And he looks back and he talks to one of the other guards, and there's a sort of a shrug, I don't know, type and such. And he sort of kind of steps to one side and not knowing what else to do, holds up his hand in the universal stop pose that seem, that that's hold, you need to stop here. And unless you're going to crash through the gate or go around,
No,
Roland.
it's
No.
better to enter legally, so he's going to slow the vehicle to a stop and let it slowly set down.
Lamar, you are struck. Not that it looks anything like a feudal Japan checkpoint, but you are the anime Japanese history buff, and you kind of gets that impression. It's like a checkpoint in Japan, which didn't in old feudal Japan. They wouldn't have a wall that ran forever, but the road would have like a tower and a garrison. That's what you're reminded of. Our two professors ish probably are like, yeah. There's the whole point of this is you can try to go around, but most vehicles are going to get stuck, so they don't really need a long wall. They just need something to make you stop. And Lamar, you might think, well, they're going to ask us to pay a toll, like check our papers, but we don't have any. Oh, you do. You have a pass. I just remembered. And the others may think, well, they've been told we need a toll, so we'll see how that goes. So Roland, this individual walks forward and he's giving your skiff just a really confused look. And if you want to interrupt me and say something, because he now kind of looks, I mean, this thing's hovering about 3 or 4 feet off the ground unless you drop it down. So he's
No,
kinda
I would have made it land.
Okay, so he's looking still up a little bit because the deck is elevated and you were all the way up on the superstructure. So the rest of you, he's looking up at the four of you. And if you want to say anything before he says a word, go for it.
Hello there.
Hello. I am Sir Jindimi Hindir, Knight of Varava. And he's like doing a whole back and forth pan. Before you pass the gate, there will need to be a toll paid. How many? And he just looks some more.
Technically, there's no axles.
Damn. Ashlyn, give yourself a resolve for predicting, like knowing exactly what was giving him trouble. Did you read my notes?
I think there was something mentioned while they were at dinner talking
oh,
with.
okay. Yeah.
They're not. It's not in my notes, but I specifically remember something being said
All right.
about the toll being per axle.
All right. So he also says, and there's no animals either. How does this wagon move?
I believe it's some sort of higher technology. Well, actually, technically magic now.
Oh, wonder workers.
Yeah, sure. We'll pay
well,
whatever toll you deem is proper.
can you repeat that, please?
We'll pay whatever toll you deem is proper.
So he steps back and thinks a minute. Oh, it is frozen.
Ah,
So we'll let him fight with that. Sorry, just threw off my whole train of thought there. So he basically steps back and looks, and he kind of puts his arms out, and he sort of thinks for a minute, and he quotes a value, which actually, if you give me a very brief moment. He says, yeah, he looks at it and he says, 1 dies.
All right. How big? What was the largest coin that she saw in
It was
That-
a dice. You were
They
told
did
there
have a
was a
dice.
yeah, there was a quarter
Okay.
hora, which is tin, a half hora, which is
Mhm.
iron. Actually, sorry, and a silver hora, and then 4 of those equal. He's actually, if you think through it, he's hitting you with a pretty high rate. But then the other hand, can't figure out what this thing is. So he says the silver dice, which is
Equivalent to 4 horror.
yeah, which is actually a little bit expensive, but
That's all right. We're not going to cause any trouble.
okay.
She's going to reach
We
in her
aren't.
bag and try to find
So, well, you were shown coinage. You can pull anything general you want out of the bag. So you can either pull out 1 coin or a pile of smaller coins that equal that value.
Yeah, no, it'll be smaller coins equal to the value. No need to look like we got a whole bunch of anything interesting.
So he has a handout when he gives that. You drop a
She's counting
collection
them
of
out.
coins,
Hmm?
and he looks at it, makes a hand. He opens up. He's got a large pouch on his belt, and he drops the coins into that, and then carefully seals it. And he steps back and he waves to the gate, and you see that's when you realize it's on wheels. You see them pull the gate in, and they pull it, and he basically waves you on through. And then as you pass on through, he comes in behind the gate. They close the gate behind him, and he just sort of stares with that same sort of expression as a dog looking at the helicopter. That slight tilt and just amazement that
Ashley will give them a polite wave as they pass.
and the rest of the troops, which are a mixture of and actually you see some other individuals come out, so there ends up being about maybe a dozen total, and they're all armed and armored that similar way, and they're a variety of peoples, and they're all sort of watching this thing go by because they've obviously never seen a wagon that doesn't have wheels and isn't drawn by animals. So this is something unique to talk about. You're definitely become a hand of days wonder, at least.
So, sorry, go ahead.
Okay. And you have apparently entered a place called Varava. Roland, you were going to say something?
I was going to ask because I missed it. What he said about the vehicle, and we were told about the approximate amount for the toll. So, what did he charge us? Like 4 times the amount?
He charged what you're guessing is like the maximum for the biggest possible wagon, because he had no other idea. You're not sure. He may have overcharged a bit, only because he wasn't so sure what he was looking at, and your wonder workers. But yeah,
It's getting a little too easy to use the Wonder Worker line.
It really is. But how else do we describe the skiff? I mean, it's stolen technology, but how else would I have stolen it without magic? I'm not a technologist by any means.
Is that even technically a word?
I have no idea. I am.
English is a living language.
Yeah.
What? So that was a lot easier than I thought it would be, honestly.
Me too.
So,
I
do we
mean,
see
everybody
any?
seems to like revere Wonder Workers and whatnot. So
What else do we see then past the gate?
Well, once you pass the gate, as you're moving along, you notice that the countryside is starting to change. It has been changing already, but this is a little bit more obvious. First of all, and this is not like immediate, but it is definitely a little bit warmer. It is on average. This is not a case of going from 60 to 70, but it's going up a few degrees at the scale. And if based on how the water is moving, the streams and such that you see, you probably are slowly descending. Because everything is sort of flowing along. Also, the megafauna that you were seeing before has become somewhat more scarce, but there's a lot more smaller animals. So you see things that you see lots of herd animals occasionally, wild mostly, things that look like deer, goats, or camels, or llamas. The air is thick with birds. So you do see a lot of things in the air, a lot more than you would see most places. Well, if you're from the United States, most places in the U.S., you're seeing either more kinds or just really big flocks. If you ever stop for water, the water is still incredibly clear and often teeming with what you're going to call fish or something that looks like amphibians or insects or in and around the water, and crustacean-like creatures in the water with shells. You can see settlements. You see farming communities, which are maybe a cluster of houses, ranches, which you can tell because there's a lot of fencing. You can see orchards because masses of trees, things like that. You see what are probably, aside from the way stations, you see what are probably traveler rests. I mean, as opposed to a way station, which is you do it all yourself. You see inns. The difference between an inn and a tavern is you get to spend the night in an inn, and so you see little developments like that, which are intended to provide services to travelers. And the road gets a little bit more traffic. You see individuals who are probably farmers, just the way they're dressed, and they're usually bringing carts with produce and something on them. You see what you would guess are merchants, which are people with carts that are more packed with stuff. And then that's where you get the idea too, where he may have been trying to count animals and axles, because sometimes it's a single pack animal with something on its back. Sometimes it's one, two, or four arrayed to draw a wagon. You also see individuals on horses moving at fast rate, or individuals on foot sort of moving along. Sometimes they have like a backpack type device or something, so you guess those are messengers. And every now and then you see individuals going by, usually on horse, dressed in war gear, not partial armor or some armor, helmet on or off, sometimes with obvious weapons or not. Everybody that you pass, sometimes they will stop and just stare. Sometimes if you pass by like an inn, people working may come closer to the road and watch you go by and point. You're not actually stopped by anybody, mainly because you're moving, and the road is not crowded enough that you have to like work your way. It's not like New York or DC or anything like that. But because you're moving at a pretty good clip, what tends to happen is they give way and watch you go by. And if they're thinking I should maybe have stopped them, you're probably too far beyond. And the only ones that really look like they have authority would be the ones that you see dressed in armor, who sometimes look like they think they want to question you, and other times are like apparently have something more important to do. And this occurs for a couple of days. And you are deep into this community or into this country, nation, city, state. And that is sort of how you've seen it. The ground is actually the landscape is getting more open. The heavy, thick trees and forests up near Ashcam and Fearcat are sort of breaking away, but then there's a lot more cultivated area. The trees are changing, less evergreenish looking and more broadleaf looking. And just the overall character is changing. You're sort of a weird way to describe it is you're sort of driven out of Scandinavia into like England, if you can imagine that, or out of Minnesota, down into Ohio, and that's sort of the environment that you're seeing.
I wasn't
Okay.
expecting such a drastic change in the environment. You're taking pictures of this, right, Freya?
As she's snapping pictures. Yeah, I am.
Okay. Sorry, I'm driving. I can't pay attention to everything.
No worries. I got the pictures.
Excellent. I don't think this paper will ever get published, but I still plan on writing a paper.
I better get credited for my pictures.
Of course you will.
Okay.
I plan on crediting everybody.
Just making sure. Otherwise, I'm not sharing my pictures. And she just continues to take pictures of the landscape.
Have we seen anything similar to Jack since we've been down here? Are scavenger birds still a thing?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay.
Those things are ubiquitous.
They're
You
rodents.
you see winged. First of all, you see birds about Jack's size that move in the same way as Jack because they're feathered, fully feathered, but they have the similar sort of pterodon claw, like 1 or 2 or 3 claws at the joint. And so apparently the pinky extends the rest of the wing, and they're around. You see lizards, which look like little wyverns. So you got little smogs running around, and you have these rodents with wings like Jack, and they will squabble with each other. They will kind of tussle over, if you have dinner at the side of the road and you leave a bunch of scraps out, they will show up pretty quickly. If they're all the same, even if they're all the same kind, it turns into a little bit of a free for all for who's getting the best tidbits first, but they will clean up junk, debris, especially food scraps and everything after you. They're not pests, but sort of they hang around any place where scraps might show up. So it's
But kind of like pigeons and crows.
Yes, but not. And the funny thing is they're probably more numerous, but not as obvious because they're way smaller. They're probably sparrow to hummingbird size, and they just they go around. And if you ever go out like into a copse of trees, there may be fallen fruit and things on the ground, and you'll see them trying to chew that up or eat that. You haven't seen like flies and a lot of gnats and other flying pests. So this might be what replaces those.
I wonder if the bacteria is completely different and stuff breaks down differently. And if there is no bacteria, maybe that's why we have that corrosive air from the vent or something. Anyway, weird things to think about. And I would say every time we stop, Edgar is going to be checking, probably with Ashlyn and rolling some, okay, is this safe to drink? How do we make this safe to drink? Is this safe to eat? How do we tell? Like, whenever we're not at a meal at the thing, where we have actual food that someone has prepared, Edgar's very out of sorts. So,
okay.
do we have to put drops in the water? I don't know.
Roland is used to surviving out in the wild, so he's probably like used to campfire food.
Water here seems mostly safe to drink. If you're really worried about it, I can get you some like God, Ava forgot the word.
Evian.
No, no, she could pull out bottled water.
I was gonna say, I'm sure Ashlyn has like the water testing, like portable water testing kit in her bag, or like the tablets that cleanse the water.
Yeah, he probably has like pH test strips too.
But yeah, I even wonder, are there parasites? I don't know. Maybe they're not.
Hey, can you pull out one of those like Yeti canteens or whatever?
I mean, you mean like the big ones?
Sure. Yeah, the ones that
I mean, I used to take one to the gym with me, so thanks.
Yeah, like the double insulated ones that keeps the water cold. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Boom.
You can just make ice, can't you? That's amazing.
Yeah. And then we put it in
could.
Put it in the thingy, and then we put the water in it. We have cold water for after workouts and whatnot. You know how refreshing it's gonna be?
Isn't cold? Aren't you supposed to not drink ice water when you're working out?
I don't care.
Better for you.
It
It risks shock to the system.
Oh,
I
it's such a
remember right.
refreshing shock. Oh,
Honestly, the biggest danger we pose to this world could be Ava destroying the world economy.
Ashlyn.
Ashlyn, dang it. Again, Ashlyn destroying the world economy.
I realized that's actually one of the reasons why I was talking about we need to be careful about what we do. A little bit here and there isn't going to hurt too much, but if we make too much of their money or add too many different things to this world, we could really disrupt things. I guess it's just me being used to researching primitive societies.
Okay, well, we're not on Earth. We haven't traveled back into the past, and we're not worried about butterfly effect like that. Probably. I mean, there'll be a butterfly effect. There is for literally everything.
I mean, like, to be honest, we don't even need to. Besides tolls, we don't really need to spend money on anything, do we?
I don't know.
Right.
Did we stay at an inn? Did we stay, or how did that work? Did we have to pay for staying at the inn? And
Probably.
yeah.
I mean, but do we really need to stay at the inn? We can stay on the skiff, right?
Probably.
I mean, if the skiff can hover while I'm asleep, I haven't tried it. Then yeah,
I mean, even if it lands, we just treat it like a big old tent, you know, drape some tent stuff over it. We can just sleep in the skiff. Ava, as long as Ava's been to Burger King, as long as Ashlyn's been to Burger King or whatnot, we've got food. I mean, pull fries right out the fryer. So it's not like we need to burden anybody.
I'd rather not be super dependent on her powers, though.
So, but
yeah, most of the stuff doesn't stay permanent. It takes a bit of effort to make them permanent, like.
Yeah, the only reason I have this coat is I felt like I had to infuse some of my magic to make it stay.
Okay. I mean, but you telling me this burger, you have to like infuse your soul into this Big Mac. Otherwise,
I'd rather not test it. You know, not infusing the soul. If you end up being hungry in a couple of hours because the thing your body's digesting just up and disappears.
Yeah, right. Like in an hour, am I going to be hungry again?
That is an interesting question.
Like we should probably figure that out.
You're willing to be a guinea pig, apparently.
I thought Ashlyn is going to pull out like a Whopper and hand it to Lamar.
All right, let's see.
I mean, all I had was a bag of chips, and I wasn't really hungry. I mostly just wanted something to chew on. So I don't know what happened with those chips.
All right. Well, thank you. It was still smashed. They never look like they do in the commercials.
It's because the ones in the commercials are purposely built up to look a certain way.
I know, but man can dream, right? To get the perfect one day.
When they make a commercial for cereal, they're just pouring the cereal in like Elmer's glue, right?
Oh yeah. I've seen them.
Yeah, so they use little things to like make the burger look bigger at a better angle for the camera. It's
pretty sure the cheese is just plastic too.
Yeah, actually, I'm pretty sure it is too.
Mm.
So we'll see what happens in an hour if you feel hungry again.
Okay.
Are we sure Lamar wouldn't be hungry again in an hour anyway?
Yeah, there's no guarantees. Yeah, I do work out a lot. I mean, I do have to eat like a bajillion and a half calories a day, right?
At least it tasted like a Whopper.
Oh yeah, it tasted exactly like a Whopper.
That's because it is a Whopper.
All right. Well, I guess for the next couple hours, we'll wait and see what's happening and make our way on the meantime.
So he's going to stop working out. He's just going to sit there and wait. He doesn't want to like artificially like burn the burger away before the hour's up. You know what I'm saying?
All right. With that in mind, with Lamar sitting there waiting to see what happens, with Freya taking photos with Edgar and Ashlyn watching the world go by. Roland, you are engaged in piloting this thing. You don't have to make rolls anymore, but you do have to keep yourself basically in contact with the control system. And you are pretty high up. You are, the deck you're on is tall enough for 6-foot armored troopers to walk under. So you're about, probably the deck you're on is about 8 feet in the air, and you're that much taller. So I don't know, let's say you're about 10 or 12 feet up. And you have a really good view of everything, and you can see things coming a little bit before everybody else, mainly because you get a longer angle of view, and you're also paying attention to the road. And the road is starting to bend. You have noticed that this is typical. The trade road will go around structures and hills. Not structures, but it'll go around landscape formations and hills. We'll go straight over most, we'll bridge anything that's like a depression, but it gives you a scenic route. It does not cut through areas so that you don't have exposed rock or dirt. Anybody who's driven 70 out of Maryland knows exactly what that would look like, where they just cut right through everything. So you're going around curves, and you're going around a bend, and you realize that on part of the road, because it's pretty wide, there's a small group coming your other way. And 3 of them you're very positive are farming people, which is no big deal because you've seen plenty of them. But the 4th one, even considering some of the people you've seen on the road, is a bit new and a bit interesting. First of all, they're mounted on a massively large 3-toed horse. I mean, we're talking like, not pack horse, we're talking part, like, words just went right out of my brain. Like, we're talking Clydesdale sized, or Percheron, or that sort of draft. That's the word I was looking for, draft horse size. But it's not quite as bulky as a draft horse, but pretty big. And there's a smaller horse behind it, the back of which has got a number of packs on it. And the individual is clad in glittering, fluted plate armor. Having seen what Galadriel wears in Rings of Power, imagine something like that, but much brighter. It's all fluted curves, edged in bright gold, but you think that's probably something like polished brass. The breastplate itself, though, has black fabric over it. They have a helmet on with the visor down. It's a tapered, rounded skull, and it comes in out the back, and the front is tapered interestingly, so that there's a visor, but just like a single slit for the eyes, and it tapers forward a little bit. They have a very long spear, and sort of cradled in one hand. It's probably resting in a stirrup, and you can see that there's a painted shield, probably covered with leather or cloth, behind the saddle that has an interesting design on it, which I've loaded up into the chat. And as they see you coming, they sort of angle the horse, and that's where you really get an idea what the shield looks like. And they do the same, one hand out, and are waiting for you to stop.
Okay.
Now, the rest of you see this. I'm going to drop a pair of pics. This is not, I mean, this is a general idea of what it looks like they're wearing. That's not obviously exact, but I just want, imagine that when I talk about plate. We're talking especially the picture on the left with the paler background. And it is engraved. Anybody takes a closer look. Lamar, you may notice, I don't know how much of a European armor fan you are, but it is pretty nicely done. It certainly leaves the mail coats and such that the Huskarls have, leaves it behind. And they are mounted there. And they are also, the other thing that you notice is, yes, they are armored ankle or foot to crown of the head. and gauntlets, the whole everything. They are fully encased in this stuff.
Cool beans. Hey,
Can we help you?
So you've stopped, you said, and you
Yep.
asked that, and there's a moment where the armored figure kind of looks at you, and then they drop the spear into what must be a sheath on the horse and get off. And at that point, based on the height of the farming people, you realize that this individual is almost as tall as Vidar. They are well over 6 feet tall, but they're significantly more slender. The smith looked like the mountain out of Game of Thrones, and this individual is a lot more slender than that. And they look at you, Roland, since you said, "Can we help you?" and reach up and pull the helmet off. And actually, they undo the buckle under the chin. It's been a long time since I've worn my helmet. I forgot that part. And they pull the helmet free, and she nestles the helm in the crook of her arm, her left arm. Lamar, this actually you may twig on this. She puts it in her left arm, leaving her right free because she's got a very long sword on her belt. And you see an individual that has a kind of warm reddish brown skin color. Their hair is a very light silvery blue and very silken. It kind of blows in the slightest breeze. Her ears are very long and narrow and taper to a point, as does her chin, while her eyes are large and a greenish gold. Lamar, you think she looks like Piratus from Record of Lodos War, except a lot taller and dressed in plate armor. The rest of you may think she looks like something out of the latest animated Netflix fantasy series. You're not sure. But she takes a few steps up toward the skiff and looks up at you, Roland, and
How
says,
can we help you?
and she says, "I am Captain Chirani, Flower of Arava. As I hold the rank of Lord Commander's Freelance and title of Lord Commander's Justice, I ask upon you to state your purpose."
We're travelers. We're actually on our way to the city of Stone and Steel. That's what it's called, right?
It is known as that, yes. It is more properly called Varava.
nah.
Tell
Yeah,
us
you
about
gotta
the
call it the
land
right
of the
name
city,
there,
then.
Roland. Varava.
Well, I was using the name that was given to us in Ashcam.
It is the name that has been given to the city due to the ribs that extend over it.
Ribs.
Lamar, she's not
Yes.
talking about the kind of ribs you're thinking of.
I mean, like the ones with the sweet heat.
Not those.
Freya's gonna lean over to Ashlyn. I thought we all agreed not to let him talk to people.
Yeah,
I mean, we can't just keep him tied up all the time.
we're mostly here to we're travelers from a distant land, and we were told that in Varava we may find some assistance with returning home.
Captain Jeremy, was it?
Yes.
We're...
What?
Well, we've been called
Would you?
Wonder Workers. We come from another place, and we were hoping to find some information on how to return back home here, where it seems to be more... That feels rude to call it more advanced.
Cosmopolitan.
More learned, I think.
She's saying we're better than you.
She's not.
Please
trying to
don't
say we're
listen to
different.
anything that one says,
Would you like me to land the
especially if
vehicle?
it's insulting.
He steps back. Please, I have not seen a wagon such as this. And I think it would be better if you did land so we may speak. Perhaps not all at once.
All right. Roland's gonna let the vehicle land.
If you wish to visit the city of Arava, you should know that I have a home there and could perhaps be of assistance in navigating it.
I would love
Fantastic.
that. We would love that.
Unfortunately, before I can assist you, and she's looking, Roland, at your skiff, I think perhaps with a wagon such as this, you might be able to assist me. And if nobody says anything,
Roland's like, I'm listening.
all right, Lamar, take your bio break because I don't want you to miss this. Actually, okay, so this is very anime armor, but this I feel is a really good pick of her.
Ooh.
Yep. Roland is thinking very much that this is an elf.
She looks very much like
An Amazonian elf.
Yes, Amazonian elf.
Yeah, one of the things you would rapidly realize, she's about 6'6".
So she's actually taller than Roland by quite a bit.
She's one of the tallest people you've met. And she is, imagine kind of that, like the way that's all edged, but in more fully covering armor. And the other thing that you would notice is that once again, this is the real stuff. It's not like watching certain Hollywood movies where like, that looks like they're wearing plastic. This is obviously layers or steel edged with something like brass, covered in something like heavy cotton duck or velvet or such. And you can, it doesn't actually rattle anywhere near as you might think, but it seems to be very well fitted. Her voice is actually kind of softer than you might expect, but then she also talks in very measured tones.
What are her companions like? You said how many are there, and what do they look like?
There are 3. You see 3 individuals. One is orange skinned, and I mean, like traffic cone orange, with dark purplish hair. One is yellow with greenish brown hair, and the third is gray skinned and has like really long reddish hair. They are dressed in effectively like a tunic, and some have one, maybe a vest or a jacket-like garment over that, and then much tighter trousers or hose, and then boots. And of course, everybody seems to wear the same sort of thing. They have a belt on which 1 or 2 pouches, and a knife is there. And the 3 of them kind of have that look. The hands are calloused, the face is a bit weathered and such, where they have, they have that sort of farmer's look where they look like they work outdoors and with their hands and such. I think one of them has really, let me take a look here. One of them has tall boots that seem to be heavily oiled or waxed. That's the one with the grayish skin. And the interesting thing is the orange and yellow skin one are kind of like the one side, and the gray skin one is the other. But all 3 are sort of keeping quiet and seeing what this Captain Gierney is doing.
Roland's gonna, while the skiff is landing, he's gonna be like, Freya, why don't you, no, sorry, not Freya, Ashlyn. Why don't you talk to her and I'll let you handle this.
Yeah, that's why I'm not saying
Do that.
anything.
Yeah. Because we're used to being able to engage the way we do, and they're not used to that.
I think we can all agree that the rest of us need to keep Lamar quiet.
Before he
Distracted.
challenges her to a duel or something.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it's going to turn into Mr. T and flying. Quick, spike his milk. All right. Ashlyn, you were going to speak to the captain?
Yes, what is it that we can help you with?
A vessel, a wagon such as this could be of assistance to me. For these three, and she sort of turns and points, and this is where the three farming people all of a sudden look like they've had a spotlight put on them. You're a little wide-eyed staring at you and your wagon that moves without horses or wheels. And she says that these three tell me that their village, a place named Jamanea, is under threat from bandits and outlaws. They have already burned a barn and made off with some livestock and may return for the rest of the village in due time. I see one of you is armed, and you have a wagon that makes little noise and requires no animal to draw. And perhaps, if you allow me to make use of this, I can then assist you with Varava, which may or may not have the answers you seek. What do you think you will find there?
Well, I'm not sure yet, but it seems, at least in the outskirts where we arrived, that, well, this place, Varava, is spoken about, well, almost mythically. And so we're hoping that there might be some form of records or something about other wonder workers to tell us more about them and those that came before us.
Other wonder workers. Are you saying that is what the five of you are?
That's what people have been calling us.
Uh-huh. Except for the grumpy one over here in the corner, and he points to Freya.
I could certainly use such assistance, for they say that there may be 40, 60 of these outlaws, and I am but one. As for Rava, there are records and histories. They may not have what you want, but I can help you find them.
That would
Your
be
perks up at this, but it's trying very hard not to say anything. So just
that would be a great help, and it would also help to have your guidance on how to act. She glances at Lamar in Varava, as I've heard said that it's quite a strict land.
I am a Lord's Commander's Justice, which means I speak with his voice when I pass judgment, if needed.
Please
Oh,
don't
so
take
yeah.
mind to anything he says.
He looks
He
at
means
you.
well.
Yeah, she looks at you, Lamar, and if you take a look at the chat, that gives you an idea. What you don't see are the ears that poke up. Like I said, she looks like anybody, like Piratus from Record
Yeah.
of Lodos War, and she kind of gives you a look, and then looks back at you. He is young,
Yeah.
and then she looks back at you and says, "Can you truly use what you carry, what you wear, what you bear?"
Who, me? Yeah, I'm pretty handy.
Unfortunately, that's not just bragging. He is rather good with the blade.
That is good to hear.
He pulls up an eyebrow that gives it his best, like, the Rock impression. Like, how about you?
This is
How
exactly what
about
I was
me?
afraid of.
Yeah, like, you handy with the blade?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Lamar,
What?
let us try not insulting the peacekeepers.
Don't.
Hey, I'm not insulting you. Just, what? You know where we're from. It's rare to have a beauty such as this with with calloused hands, right?
Lamar, please stop while you're behind.
Behind her is fine by me.
What is her reaction to all this? I want to know.
She just sort of lets his comments wash over her. She seems to have put a label. He is young, and that's sort of where she's working on that. I mean, that's where she's sort of slotting him into. Yeah, he's young and brash.
Well, we'd be willing to help you out.
Thank you.
So, taking a quick look at the pack horse, Roland can guess. I'm assuming, and Roland is doing the same. The pack horse probably belongs to the 3 farming people.
No,
No,
you don't think so? No.
no.
The way it is equipped, the way it looks, it's attached actually by a lead to the big war horse.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And the thing is, it's loaded with basically the saddlebags and baggage is of a much higher quality than you think those farmers would have.
So it's her gear, so that her warhorse can do its thing if she has to go fight.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right. Based on the weight of the soldiers, the number of them that were on the ships before, do I believe we could carry the 2 horses plus these men and her?
Yeah, well, probably no. Well, it depends, because that big horse could weigh about 2,000 pounds. And you're talking, and basically that horse, 10 200-pound guys, but that doesn't count their armor and gear. So it's hard to say. The trick is, how do you get them up here? And how do you keep them steady while you're moving?
So a couple of things. So if we all have to and Roland, I know you have to actually concentrate when you're doing this. I can make some kind of floating transportation horse cart or something if we need to follow along with the skiff, or attach it to the skiff or something like that. Or if they do fit on the skiff, make a ramp up to the skiff, if that's possible. If there's enough of an opening for them to get here, so we can do either of those 2 things to try to help with transportation there.
I mean, we could just tie the horses to the skiff and let them walk. We don't go very high.
We go fast.
Speed.
It depends on how urgent is the matter.
How fast do we typically go? I thought we were only going
25 miles an hour.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that is rough.
Horses tire.
Yeah, my bad. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. So Roland's going to look at the I, as a player, cannot remember her name, even though I just heard it.
Jeremy, Captain
Jeremy.
Jeremy.
He's going to look at Captain Jeremy. He's going to say, how calm are your mounts?
Steel has seen battle.
And the other?
Stone is a pack horse, or a horse that I ride when I don't need steel. And she's now looking at the skiff. What is it you intend?
Well, the skiff, and he points to the vehicle, as I have named it, is much faster than a horse. And if we could bring these men, yourself, and your mounts on our vehicle, it
Roland,
may be.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but wouldn't it be easier if I'm assuming an inn or something you could find somewhere to stable the horses while we take care of the village's problems?
And the yellow one actually steps forward and speaks up and says, there is an inn in Jayanama. It is there for when the trade caravans come through and merchants. We are not a backwater.
How far is it
are
from here?
we?
And at that point, Journey looks at the three of them, and the gray-skinned one says, no more than perhaps an hour. And he points back the way you've come. You suspect that one of the dirt, there's like dirt roads that lead off all the time that you're going to have to double back and go back up one of those roads. And it's just the sun back.
Then we were definitely overthinking.
Yeah, I thought it might have been a little farther. Considering we passed the toll gate, a few hours ago?
Few days.
Days.
Oh, a few days. Okay.
I did say days.
Okay.
It's a few days later.
Fair enough. Yeah,
All
so
right,
Roland's gonna be
then.
like, wait, what, 3-4 days ago we passed the toll gate? So, I mean, if it's only an hour, on foot, by horseback?
She's apparently moving at the speed of the three guys who are walking, so yes, on foot.
Well, no use waiting for the day to grow long.
Well, let's bring. I mean, we could do that. The people can all come on the skiff. If the horses can come, we can either go at the horse's pace or we can carry the horses. An hour isn't too bad. If we want to make, we can carrying the horses. I don't think will be difficult.
Yeah, I think we can go at the horse's pace because that's gonna be faster than them on foot. But it's also gonna complicate things less by us having to worry about the logistics of getting the horses onto the skiff.
So
I was just gonna carry the horse, but that's fine too.
I think we should save your energy because we don't know how that puts a toll on you yet.
True, hasn't yet, but we'll see.
So am
You
I
know what?
to
I'm gonna work with
understand?
Go ahead.
So am I to understand that you wish Derek, Paraphon, and Sarta to join you on your wagon, and I will accompany you on steel and bring stone with me?
I believe that would be the simplest and fastest method of getting us there.
So she turns to the three farming people and says, they have invited you to join them on their wagon. Said in almost a tone of, I'm not sure that's what it is, but I'm sticking with that word. And the gray-skinned one, whose name is Sarta, steps forward and looks and basically puts a hand up so you'll pull him up there. The yellow-skinned one steps up and kind of looks at all of you in a expression that you kind of take as judgmental as if he's trying to see if you measure up to some unknown scale. But then he too puts a hand up, and then once he goes up, the one with the orange skin follows, and they sort of unsteadily stand there, and probably don't even notice when the vehicle starts moving, because it doesn't really jerk. It just starts drifting along as you power it up. Journey gets back to her horse, gets up on it, and basically you have to cycle this thing down to about maybe 2 miles an hour, or maybe 3, but she gets up on her horse and keeps pace and directs effectively the yellow-skinned individual. Paraphon says, starts directing, looking up at you, Roland. He states, back that way, and I will tell you when to turn. And Journey gets up on her horse and looks over at the collection of you and says, I have never seen such a wagon that I know of. You say you come from a far land.
Yes, well, given how we acquired this wagon, it's probably for the best you've never encountered one.
Have you traveled long?
Let's see, we've been here for, what is it now, at least 200 days, I think?
I
thought
think
a
it's
lot-
closer to
yeah.
3. I think we're closer to 3 hands of days, by my count.
And where do you intend to go after Varava?
Well, I guess that'll depend on what we learn here.
He sort of digests all that.
And Ashlyn, like as they're traveling, Ashlyn's going to take out like her drawing tablet, the digital one, and she's gonna start like sketching Journey because it's the first of her people that we've seen. Yeah, that's the excuse she uses.
You've seen, I don't know, I'm pretty positive you've seen knife-eared people, and they...
I guess you might have seen them in like Ash.
Yes, and their ears are significantly thicker and larger and coarser, and they don't have, they're nowhere near as fine featured, and her hair's like I said, silken. So she's oddly kind of delicate featured, considering she's dressed in all this armor and as tall and such as she is. Is anybody else doing anything of note? Let me see. Roland, other than driving, piloting, anything else you're doing?
If he can get one of the one who's guiding him to be up top so he doesn't have to yell, he's gonna ask him what life in Varava's land is like, because they have an idea of what it's like because of Fearcat over in Ashcam.
So Paraphon says, he's kind of tall. He's got the kind of muscled arms you expect of somebody that works in fields. And he says, we are a small community, maybe no more than maybe 100, 120 people. We work the fields. We submit a portion of our harvest to the local land manager, and we maintain our land as is proper.
Interesting.
Lamar, are you just meditating still?
Yes. I'm letting them talk.
Okay. Freya.
Freya is alternating between taking pictures of the landscape as we go by and taking pictures of the people, the new people on the skiff. And kind of half listening to the conversations.
Okay. Edgar.
Edgar is working on a turret because there's bandits, so maybe a turret will come in handy here. Let's Ashlyn, would it be possible to get some goggles, perhaps? Is that something you could make? Can't hear you.
I forgot I was muted.
Mhm.
I mean, what kind of goggles are we talking about?
Well, I'm messing with making like tools and stuff that might have stuff flying out, so just goggles to protect my eyes. So from like pieces of things hitting me in the face.
Night vision?
Plastic work
Well,
goggles.
Yeah, like plastic work goggles, something like that. Sure.
Yeah, no, I got, yeah.
You know, the
Yeah,
clear
I can do
plastic
that.
ones that are just there to keep your eyes from getting hit.
Yeah, no, those were like in the PPE kits at all the veterinary clinics I worked at. Yeah.
All right, so that's what I'm gonna be doing. I'm working on the turret, on assembling the turret.
Okay. So at one point, then Captain Journey looks at you, Ashlyn, and says, "What is that?" Sort of
Oh.
looking at the turret.
It's another piece of technology that we found. It seems like pieces of other places, other worlds maybe, wind up here. Here in a general sense, this land world. I'm not sure. Anyway, we found it. It's like, oh, do they even have firearms?
They might have crossbows.
They definitely have crossbows, right? Oh, they definitely have bows. And the lizard people
So
definitely have guns.
it fires projectiles automatically at enemies or threats, rather.
I must show you the caves of steel when we get to Varava.
That sounds mighty fine.
It is why it is called the City of Stone and Steel. The city itself is of stone, but great ribs of a metal that few can work project over the city, and there are caves, which are known as the Caves of Steel, run under it.
Well, that sounds mighty interesting.
And you say you come from a far land.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen someone, a people, that looks like me there?
Not where we're from.
You've never been to a convention?
That's cosplay. That's different.
My parent.
I have a quick question before this conversation goes too far.
Okay.
Since Edgar's working on the ship, is it possible for me to stunt my magic to be able to give him a boost to make it easier for him to follow the instructions?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. Well, you don't actually have to stunt your magic because your Omni power can do the buff, I believe. I think that's one of the things that is allowed. There's a few things that are not.
Buff is one of the ones that's allowed, but I was looking at it. Where's the one that lets me? One of the abilities lets me like fake having a skill. I forget which one it was. I think it was expertise.
Expertise doesn't let you fake having a skill. Expertise, technically what it does is it takes something you have and gives you a narrow version of that. Now, it is a power. I'm looking at Omni power, and you can use it to create expertise. So you could basically, like, if you want to give him expertise crafting and crank it up pretty high, I'm not going to, I mean, you can spend a resolve and stunt it. I'm not going to ask for him to roll any dice, but the special effect is he, Edgar, you give me an idea. If you want to buy this thing eventually as a follower, as you said, and do some things with it, this will go into that. You guys are not near yet
Sure.
your next milestone. So, but you know, yes, you can do that, and whatever you kind of want to eventually have this turret do, we can presume you start doing it now.
Okay. So the movie quote that I'm going to use is, "Are you a master builder or a master butcher?" It's from the movie The Ten Commandments. And I'm going to spend the resolve just because I feel like it's necessary for me to be able to grant expertise to somebody else.
Okay. I thought you were just going to ask me if he's a master builder, and Edgar would look around. Yes, I am.
So I feel like it's appropriate he's doing that, and really, since the vehicle itself doesn't require me to channel my magic to fly it,
No.
yeah, it's a way for me to be able to use my abilities to help him out.
Okay.
And with that move, Edgar's going to be in the zone, and he's going to be like making little construct tools and stuff, and assembling it, and getting the stuff with it, and just like going to town to fix the turret.
So the orange skinned individual kind of takes a step away from you. The gray skinned one, that's Derek, and the gray skinned one, Sarta, is a little more fascinated with what you're doing. He's basically realizing that some of what you're doing has to be a wonder worker and at play. So the orange skinned one, Derek, is a little apprehensive. And Paraphon is too busy telling you, Roland, what are basically occasionally pointing things out that he's not really paying attention. But Sarta, the one with gray skin, is very curious as to what you're doing there, Edgar. Captain Tierney does not notice because she's talking to Ashlyn, and what she says is, that is what I expected. My parents told me that they found me outside their croft as a mere infant, and they had no idea where I came from, and I have never seen another people like me in all of my seasons.
Well, that sounds terrible. I've seen a few, and so you said probably seen the knife people, right?
Yes.
How
I know
different-
there's somebody in Ashcam who fits that description.
I didn't meet him personally, but I think I caught sight of a few. And then she's like pulling out her paper sketchbook and like flipping through it because she just kind of sketches the streets, trying to see if she's got a sketch
Captain,
somewhere in there.
And you find something, or actually, you don't have to. She says, Captain Tierney says, "Oh yes, the knife-eared people wish they could count me among their number." And she says specifically house, and I don't have it memorized because I didn't think about this line of conversation, but she says house and gives a name, which I will tell you in a moment.
Gregory, MD.
No, she does give a house, and I will give me a quick moment here. Where did it go? Of course, it's a Word file.
So Lamar, you did say cosplay. I mean, he does kind of look like Deedlit, right, or Pyrrhus from Lodos. So
yeah, and these same and the reason why I mentioned those two is her ears are that long, thin style that were created for. Yeah. That's where actually a little piece of trivia. If I Lamar may correct me if I'm pretty positive though the damn it, that's not what That was weird. Okay. I don't mean to. Let me delete that. Okay, so she says House Cormadat. Which I tried to. Apparently, if I paste from Word, it imports it as an image. Strange.
That's weird.
Which you don't know what that means. But she says yes, they would like to count me among my number, me among their number.
I don't blame them.
They are one of the 12 upper. No, she says they are one of the upper dozen, one of the greater houses of Harava. I am the least of the lower dozens, for I am a house unto myself.
Lamar's gonna lean. He's gonna lean down towards Edgar, and he's gonna say, "Spiritismo's my first body pillow."
Edgar stops and looks at you, and he's like, "Okay, he'll go back to it."
Lamar, we need to have a talk about oversharing.
Hey. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Like, what I mean, like, you're not gonna tell anybody, right? You're gonna keep my secrets.
Freya has her recorder out, and she's just kind of recording the conversation.
I'm just saying, if you start calling yourself Ashram and wearing dark armor and stuff, I'll be worried. So.
Okay, all right. No promises that I'm not gonna do that, but
Sure.
I know that you'll at least be worried if it comes to pass.
It's true. Wow.
So of course we've come full circle because Record of Lodosaur started out as a Japanese D&D game run by the creator in college. And there's a universe where TSR bought it and published it, but they said no, we don't want it.
Universe in this game, and are we in that universe right now?
No. Yeah, so Ashley, did you have anything to say to that comment?
Well, I'm sorry to hear that, and well, that just breaks my heart, really.
I cannot associate too closely with either the upper dozen or any of the lesser dozens. I have been around for too many seasons, and other houses may see that I am playing favorites.
So you're forced to be alone with no dozens that you can, dozen around with. Are we in a 12? Are you guys in like a 12 count system?
So she looks at you now, Lamar, and says, there are 12 greater houses currently in Varava. They are known as the upper dozen, for their estates within Varava are up amid the ribs and overlook the rest of town, the rest of the city. There are also the lower dozens, perhaps 30, 36, of which I am the least. I am just a house unto myself. But having served Varava for some 600 seasons, I do command a level of respect.
Oh, so you're like an Omega Cougar.
Ashlyn is doing math in her head at that.
Wait, so you're like 600 years old?
She leans over to you, Ashlyn, and says, "What did your companion just say?"
A season
We
is 125 days, Lamar. Remember?
we
How
have a
many
different
days?
method of counting time where we're from. So to figure out the age of somebody that we would recognize from our world takes a little bit of math.
I mean, to be fair, that would put her somewhere around 200, I think.
And
How many
What-
seasons did she say? I missed that.
600
600.
at least.
She said she's been serving Varava for at least 600
Yeah.
seasons.
Right, she'd be older than would be older than that. Then.
And well, 600 seasons is beyond the natural lifespan from our world.
Like way beyond it.
So she says to you, Ashlyn, as I have found, just beyond the lifespan of most everyone in Varava.
That's fascinating.
How do you
Yeah,
like living forever?
Okay, wait. I heard two people at once.
Okay.
Lamar,
Oh yeah, like how is it living forever?
Well, I imagine it'd be fairly lonely.
I mean, yeah.
so she looks at you, Lamar, and says, I have outlived my parents. I have seen a score of Lord Commanders come and go. I am the oldest person I know in Varava. And then she actually looks at you and says, I have had lovers, but they have all left me, which is the reason why I have no interest in offers of marriage into another house.
He starts doing math. He's like half your age plus 7. Like that means you shouldn't be messing with
Lamar, please no.
Now, Ashlyn, the one thing you should note, of course, is if you were asked how old is she, you would be like, I don't know, but does not look a day over 100. I mean, has that very youthful, smooth-skinned face. It's a tad uncanny valley because unlike say farming people and such, there's just a few things off: the cheekbones, the chin, the shape of the eyes, and everything. That she's just a little off, but she's not. I mean, you probably would say, yeah, she's attractive or pretty, but it's just a little different. And she seems to be opening up a bit. She says,
I say, well, Ashlyn would definitely say she's attractive.
so she says, before your companion pries too far, having heard everything he's rattling off, Journey says, as I told you, I was found outside my parents' croft as an infant. They brought me in, raised me, and for a long time, I was just a farm girl who thought of nothing more than chickens and cows and peas and corn. But I stayed young as they grew old. And there came a time where a representative, a land manager, the Lord Commander saw me and thought that such a unique individual should not waste away in a farm. Sorry, I've got everything connected as well as I can.
I think it's occasionally your mic might hit the collar of your shirt or something. It's
All right,
not bad.
let me pull it out a little. I put it down because I was breathing into it, and then of course I hear me breathing into. All right, and she says, and so they brought me to the castle of the estate of the Lord Commander in Varava. But I was a terrible handmaiden. But due to my size and strength, there was a captain who thought I might make a good armsman. And I found a certain interest in the sword and spear and the horse. And eventually they made me a knight. In time, I gained fame, and they made me a captain.
But were you
I will
ever
tell you,
But were you ever really given a choice?
at the time, there was, she says, at that age, there was no refusing a Lord Commander's request. Granted, he did wait until my parents were too old to maintain the farm and gave them monies for the rest of their life because I could not be there to care for them.
Something about that smells me.
But now, I have more than I could have ever imagined. Harness, and she sort of indicates her armor. Okay, now somebody else is crackling. She pats her horse. I have steel and stone. I have an estate in Varava. I have properties about the rest of the countryside. I collect tolls and taxes. I travel as a Lord Commander's freelance. I may go as I wish. I do not have to pay toll or tariff. I have even been beyond the borders of Varava. And she leans in. Once, when I was young, perhaps 130, no, 150 seasons or so, I traveled the great trade road, and she sort of points back the way you've come, sunward from Varava. I made my way down the tall cliff that separates Varava from the lands below, and traveled through a jungle that was hot, humid, and filled with crawling things as long as my arm. I eventually arrived at a city on the shores of the ocean, where the boat people unload their ships. Along the way, I met a man who had no legs and stood the body of a great snake. I saw a four-legged beast with shields upon its back, and on the docks of the oceanside city, I was shown a set of jaws so large I could stand upright with them. I was told they came from a great beast found in the depths of the sea.
Are you happy? Ashlyn is so playing psychotherapist right now.
There's a long moment of quiet.
Big question, isn't it?
I know, right? Loaded.
And she's pretty good at keeping a game face. And unlike, say, a lot of the more animal-like people, her ears don't twitch. She's certainly not deedlit, flipping her ears around, being frustrated. But she doesn't look at you for a bit, and then finally turns back and says, I have been. Let us see what happens in Gemini for Rava. We will find out. And why don't we take our break? Because right about now, you are coming into the village.
Sounds good.
It does.
Welcome back, everybody. Roland,
Yeah.
Paraphon has sort of directed, and much as I said, you basically realize, oh, this, dirt wagon track that we kind of been ignoring because they're everywhere. He points you down that, and you start to move along a dirt road, and you begin to realize, and maybe you saw this from the Great Trade Road, but you didn't pay attention because it was one of numerous developments that you kept passing all over the place, and I am going to drop a picture into crap. I can't find anything. I swear, OCD means you build a folder for everything, and then when you go to look for it, you can't remember which folder you put it in.
Oh, file management is fun.
I mean, I have really good file management, but it's not like super fast. Okay, so you are coming in from the bottom of the drawing that I dropped into the chat. The gray road is basically a dirt track. There's a slope to your left, and where the slope levels out, you can see a lot of fields. It reminds you a lot of what you saw around Fearcat and some other locations. These are very large fields, filled mostly with what look like grain crops. On your right, you can see the ground slopes down a bit, and there's a stream, a small, a broad stream, a small river. Not surprised, it's a well-watered land. And you pass what is definitely a water wheel, and you pass a structure that is kind of, it's vaguely reminds you of like a Greek structure. It seems to be a peaked roof on some pillars. There's a lot of plants and such around it, and you see one of the leaping people. No, you don't see anybody in front of it. My bad. Let me excuse that. But all the little black lines represent homes. They're all of a similar design. Single floor, probably a series of rooms in a row. They look to be plastered and whitewashed on the outside, like thatch roofs, and all the light gray lines around them represents fieldstone walls that have been probably built up over seasons, creating what would be called a croft. And anything within those walls, those of you suspect, and I will say, and you'll eventually find out, but basically anything within those walls is what the tenant gets to keep for themselves. Everything else that's being grown, they have to share with apparently the local land manager. And you can see there's a series, there's basically these all line the road, and then the road keeps going and apparently links back up further to Sunback to the Great Trade Road. And there's also a wooden fence that surrounds a two-story structure, which is apparently the inn, which is where Paraphon is directing you. And in the area in front of the inn, in that town triangle, because there's that triangular spot where a couple of the roads connect, there is a crowd, and it is almost entirely farming people. And they are all sort of gathered around in a big circle, and there's a person in the center of that, and there's a couple of individuals there, and you see everybody's pretty much dressed like what you had before, except you also see women wear much longer skirt-like or dress-like garments and aprons, it seems to be, and a lot of them have their hair done up with like a cloth, and you see people with hats, most like big broad straw hats and such, and you see a number of people with things like hoes and rakes and axes and maybe staves and so on, and they sort of part as you come up. But actually, as you get closer, Roland, what do you do?
So I'm gonna probably stop a distance from the crowd, and lower the skiff down to the ground. That way, our temporary occupants can get off.
Okay. At this point, Derek Paraphon and Sarta get off, a little gingerly, but they get off. They scramble down to the ground, and they move forward. They look a bit confused. They don't know what the crowd is all about. Captain Gierney turns and she sort of undoes the lead that connects stone to steel. And she looks over at you, Ashlyn, and says, "If you wish, wait here. I will see what this trouble is." And she sort of gets back into character. The helmet goes on, the visor goes up. She gets that spear up out of its sheath, so she's actually got it in one hand. And she brings her and her horse at a walking pace forward. And I'm going to reverse her. So, Edgar, are you still working on your turret?
If it still needs work, then yes. If not, I'm going to disembark. So I'm not going to activate it yet, but I am going to disembark from the skiff, not approach the crowd yet.
You have had enough time to at least assemble it.
Yep.
Whether you want to, and now programming and activating if you want to wait on that. But so you I'm going to say, okay, disembark. Freya.
Sorry, I was muted in too many spaces. I am going to. I don't know what I want to do. I'm gonna. Is everybody else staying on the skiff?
I haven't gotten that far yet, so
Okay.
we'll get back to you.
Okay,
We'll
get back to
Lamar.
me.
Lamar.
Yeah, I'm definitely off the skiff. I'm making my way towards the celebration. He said there's someone in the middle of a group of people with the hands in the air.
Yeah, as you get closer, it's definitely not a celebration.
Oh. Okay, so what is it then?
We'll get to that in a moment. Roland, you land. Are you getting down or staying on your vehicle?
Yeah, I'm planning on getting off.
Okay.
Like staff and all. So I'm leaving my pack and my other gear up on the skiff, but just in case he wants to make sure he's ready to, defend the group.
Okay.
Also, the staff looks like a walking stick, so nobody's really gonna question that compared to a sword.
And who's gonna part an old man from his walking stick?
Actually, Freya's going to use her long range lens on her camera to look to see what's going on over there.
I'll get back to you in a moment then.
Okay.
I'll get to you first, and then I'll tell the rest of you what you see. Ashlyn.
Yeah, Ashlyn is going to pull out her rifle from her bag.
Okay.
And get to a vantage point to use the scope and see what's going on herself.
All right, so the best place for you, actually, the way I visualize it would be you start going up the ladder and Roland's going down the ladder to the upper platform. So what the two of you see, I'm not going to really worry about perception rolls because it's pretty obvious. There's an individual standing surrounded by what looks like the rest of the villager. And they look like a humanoid fox. Like something you would see in a Disney cartoon. You figure it's a he. You figure they can't stand more than a few inches over 5 feet in height and probably weighs 100 pounds dripping wet. They are not a particularly big individual. Just about every villager who's not a child is taller than them. They have a human's body, but a fox's head, fur, and tail, and long black hair that hangs down into his eyes and down his back. And he looks like his picture could be in the dictionary definition of bedraggled. And the crowd is pushing this person forward. This is what the two of you see first. And this guy looks terrified because they're pushing him forward and shouting. His arms look like they're bound behind his back, and he looks like he's wearing just a tunic, no pants or shoes or anything else, and he just looks like a mess. So Edgar, Lamar, and Roland, as you come forward, basically the three villagers that were traveling with you kind of run forward and start talking to some of the other villagers, and you can hear them shouting that they have caught a bandit and they want and they want to know what to do with him. And you hear Paraphon state, "Well, we will settle this matter now." And he points back at Captain Gironni, "For we have found a Lord Commander's justice, and she will pass judgment on this bandit." And the way he says it, he figures that justice will be passed with the edge of a sword. And like I said, the three of you see, the best way to imagine it, he looks like he could play Robin Hood in Disney's Robin Hood.
That's exactly what I was picturing.
Yeah, no, me too.
And the captain, and it's almost, on one hand, you may feel sorry for this guy because he looks terrified. On the other hand, it's almost surreal because Captain Gironni kind of comes up and they push him forward, and you realize how tall she is compared to him, like almost a foot and a half taller. It's a little surreal, and of course, and all that armor, and he kind of falls to his knees and looks up, and then his expression sort of changes. Granted, he's got a face like a fox, but he can still, much like the artwork, smile and such. He's got a more expressive face, but he kind of looks up and blinks, and you hear, "Jesus, fuck, you're tall." Now,
wait, did he actually say Jesus?
Hold on a minute. Freya and Ashlyn, you don't hear any of that.
Right.
The other three, give me a hearing perception, or more appropriate, or if you think it's better, give me an intellect roll.
I'll rely on my perception. Thank you very much.
Man, I wish Ashlyn could read lips. Although it's a fox, so that would be.
Can I add my expertise in theology?
Yes. Actually, yeah, you can roll your expertise in theology. If it's high, because that should be, well, that might be higher.
It is higher than my perception and my intellect.
Yeah, roll that.
Got 3 successes on intellect.
Okay.
I got 2.
Okay.
I got 3.
All right. So Lamar, with 2, where's Lamar from? Like
Lamar is from Florida.
Florida. So you're pretty positive that was English, but that had but accented like a weird accent. I mean, not a weird accent. He sounds like that it's English, but it sounds like he was on The Sopranos.
Are you from Jersey or something?
I had one player that had it hysterically did it, and I was like, that's perfect, but I don't know if I can quite do it. You talking to me? I got a brother in Jersey, you know him? So yeah, Jesus, fuck, you're tall.
Oh my God.
So those of you who both got a 3, Edgar, yeah, that was English. That was like Jersey English. And Roland, yeah, not only was that, that was not, you heard in the middle of all that, because it stuck out even more than the accent, that yes, he said quite plainly Jesus.
Okay. Fuck. Roland's gonna pull out his phone and cue up a song. The first one he can find. I don't know. Somebody give me a suggestion. Roland listens to a lot of stuff.
It's the time. It's the thrill of the fight.
Why that song?
I have the tiger. I mean, why not? That's the first song Roland pulls up. I have the tiger.
So Eye of the
Ashlyn, Freya are gonna
Tiger
be
starts
so
playing
confused.
out of your phone?
Yes. I want to see his reaction to actual.
All right. Okay. So Edgar, Roland pulls out his phone and starts playing, and then you can hear pretty clearly Eye of the Tiger. The captain has. We haven't done everybody else is in stasis at the moment. The captain is basically there's like we're doing this slow motion. She's putting a hand out or finger out, and she's looking at some of the individuals standing right behind this guy. But she hasn't gotten a chance to do anything yet. So what is Edgar doing?
Edgar is confused. Edgar is basically what he's doing. He looks at Roland, and I have the tiger, and he's like, I don't do bandits have mob accents here? That's what he says.
Hey, Lamar. Any particular action from you, or are you just watching to see how this plays out?
Yeah, he's just kind of watching, waiting, like making sure stuff is not gonna pop off before he does anything.
All right. I thought about having you guys play villagers, and I decided that may be a little too complex for a virtual game like this. So I will actually condense and not go crazy having a whole bunch of NPCs talk back and forth. So in effect, what you see is a number of individuals, one of whom is very well dressed, like in a much more elaborate and high-end coat. There's a woman who kind of looks like she's been cooking or was cooking, and there's several other individuals, and then there's of course a more faceless mob, and they've all quieted down. There's not so much shouting and pushing, and I'm going to apologize because apparently my brain short-circuited and I didn't quite fill out as much for this outline as I should have. So give me a quick second. Okay. So she points at the best dressed individual and says, "Mayor, please explain what is going on." And the individual that she pointed at and called a mayor steps forward and says, "Lord Commander's Justice, this bandit was caught with a wheel of cheese that he stole, and he must be judged. That is what you do. Judgment for this thief." And then you hear in English, those of you who can hear this, "I'm not a bandit. I was hungry. I stole a cheese and a pie, but I don't know of any bandits. I mean, I had nothing. I needed something. And to her credit, Captain Gierney looks down at this, puts a hand out, and basically says, and then looks at the rest. "How do you know he is with these other bandits?" "Well, he must be. He's a thief. He stole. He has no arms. He has no armor. He is not like the ones that Paraphon said burned down a barn. He looks..." And she kind of tilts her head, and the guy on his knees, arms bound behind his back, just like does his best puppy dog eyes look. He looks more dirty than dangerous. At that point, anybody else, any of you want to do anything, please let me know.
Okay, so with the music playing, has anybody noticed it?
Gierney looked back, like, where is that coming from? Saw you, kind of like, the armor does not let you really see like somebody's sigh, but there's sort of a bit of body language of wonder, like almost
Right.
Whatever. And I mean, I can't be distracted. So she turned back. The fox kind of tilted his head, but when being dressed directly, sort of like, I'm gonna argue my case. A number of other people, maybe they've heard it, but they're sort of too, like on the fringes, there are people looking at you rather curiously, and they're kind of like, "Oh, this isn't fair." Nobody said there was going to be a show.
I'm gonna turn off the music. I was more worried about what the fox was doing.
Well, he was like, his whole expression is, "What?" And then when he was being addressed, he snapped back to talk. And you have heard basically, I mean, what little you can hear, that's gangster accent. I mean, we're going to jokingly call it gangster accented English.
Seeing that, oh, go ahead.
I was just asking, have we heard an accent before? Has anyone else spoken with an accent that we've heard?
We haven't heard English technically since we got here. It's all been translated.
But the translation, have we heard an accent? Yeah, that's weird.
No,
That's very...
okay. So first of all, you would have you have no idea if anybody speaks with an accent.
Right.
Second of all, the translation effect, there's no accented English, or it's not accented.
That's weird.
Seeing that it's not immediately going to violence now that Captain Jirani has stepped in, Ashlyn would make her way down and approach as well.
Freya would as well.
But what she's doing now is there's basically 6 individuals, or in this case it would be 5 because there's 5. But she's basically pointing or indicating 5 individuals, and she's asking them about the bandits. What did they look like? What did they want? What did they do? Paraphon is like, I told you. And then he sort of corrects himself, like I may be able to browbeat my my fellow villagers, but maybe I just realized I'm kind of mouthing off to a Lord Commander's justice. So he sort of steps back, but he says, as I said before, and he describes individuals wearing armor with weapons who were demanding food, and took some. And then to prove that they were serious, basically some of them burned a barn, and then they withdrew to sunset. And then there's, I saw him skulking about the village. He stole my pie. Oh, he grabbed a wheel of cheese. And you can actually see he's got berry stains and crumbs and such. And we chased him down. And have grabbed him, and so she's basically getting everything she can. And apparently, this guy had nothing on. He didn't have even a knife or anything. And before they bound his arms, they put a raggedy old tunic on him so he wouldn't be offend them with just running around in his fur. And you can see that it's pretty much entirely farming people. There is one individual, there's 2 leaping people and one of the hunting people, and one of the leaping people is dressed more in robes, and she talks to him last and addresses him as whatever she uses, pretty much translated as priest. And he says, Lord Commander's justice, I realize that bandits did strike a few days ago, but the spirits tell me that this is no bandit. This is someone whose hunger took over their common sense. And so I do not think he deserves the sword, but perhaps some judgment. But he did not burn a barn. He stole that and ate that which can be replaced. So she sort of nods at this and steps back, and is sort of sitting there, hand on her chin, thinking. And the fox individual kind of looks around and looks past her legs over at you, Roland and Edgar and Lamar, and you can kind of see him say, "Help." You can sort of tell his. I mean, you can't quite read lips, but you're pretty positive that's what he just said, and he's looking at you like, like almost. He can't. He's sort of like moving his face, trying to catch your attention.
Okay. So what is this man's crimes? He's gonna say
Theft, mostly.
his crimes are death.
Theft. He said theft.
Oh, okay, theft. Like like how much was the cheese?
I mean, how are we supposed to know that? Also, how big of a wheel,
I mean, I get it. It was that nacho cheese, but like,
I have a very important question. He's going to point at the Fox guy. Do you have a name?
Yeah, Jonathan Roberts, CPA.
I thought so. Where are you from? I'm from San Diego.
Jersey.
Thought so. How long you been here?
A few days.
did you come out looking like a fox?
No. Kind of didn't feel well and lay down, and when I woke up, I was in a crater and I looked like this. And at this point, Journey has kind of stepped back and is looking from Jonathan Roberts to you, Roland, and she says, "Do you know this people?"
I do not know this. I do not know this person, but we're from the same place.
So she kind of looks from you to him and back.
Trust me, we're from the same place. We're from a place far, far away.
Or a similar place. It might not be
Yeah.
exactly the same.
Roland's gonna say, like, he's gonna look at Jonathan and go, yeah, Roland Morris, PhD.
So she looks down. Do you know this individual? Hold on a minute. I just remembered something.
Say,
Oh my god.
Also, does that mean that we could go to sleep and wake up as something else? Keep that in mind too.
Might be the expression of his Wonder Worker powers.
Maybe.
Love it.
So Jonathan goes, well, I don't know him, but I recognize that one. And he's looking at you, Lamar, from the flight. Now, of course, you're all like, there was no 5-foot fox person on the airplane.
Yeah. You're on your way to Bermuda?
Yeah.
So can you like summon lightning in your hands, or like, I don't know, find truffles under the ground? Like, did you manifest any crazy powers besides turning into a fox?
Well, if I turn into my first sauna, I can cast spells.
That's why he recognizes you, Lamar.
Okay.
Like recognizes like.
And that is said in like an embarrassed mumble.
Hey, say that with your chest. You have a persona and spells?
I mean, I have spells too, but I don't have a
persona.
Captain, I think we can safely say this person.
Oh, persona. Oh.
Wait. Hold on. Edgar was saying something.
Yeah, I was saying, Captain, I think we can safely say, I think we can attest to the fact that just based on this person's knowledge, this person is not a member of the bandits, and is probably a stranded traveler in the same way that we are.
He turns back to the crowd and says, as a Lord Commander's justice, I will pass judgment once I fully understand the crime that has been committed. We will continue this in the inn once I have seen to my horses and my companions have seen to their wagons. And she points at Jonathan Roberts.
CPA. I will leave you with my companions. And she looks back at the three of you, technically you two as well, back on the, and she said, and looks at you, Edgar, because you're the one who talked to her directly, and says, Edgar, I charge you to look after him and make sure he does not go anywhere. And we will find out his story later.
Fair enough.
And she basically, the crowd starts to disperse, and a number of people head over toward where this inn is. And she goes to get her two horses, and you'll see her leading them. And the woman in the like the long skirted dress with an apron, her hair done up with a piece of cloth, is basically starts talking and pointing, and is apparently indicating. She apparently runs, or as part of the inn, is indicating where things can go. Leaving, for the moment, the three, maybe five of you, and Jonathan Roberts, who's still tied up.
Yeah, I'm leaving him tied up at the moment. I'm going to call Ashlyn and Freya. It's like, hey, this guy's from Jersey.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
He's a furry from Jersey.
I think I might have some clothes in your size. Come on. Get you in something you're probably more comfortable in.
Ashlyn's gonna like approach and
He is as comfortable as he's getting. Isn't that right, buddy?
Ashlyn's gonna come up behind him, pull out a pocket knife, and undo his bindings.
yeah. Well, he says right before that happens, he goes, "I'd be a lot more comfortable if they untied me.
Snick.
I'd like a burger and fries and a milk." Oh.
Well, technically, that's
Little
not
does he
a
know.
question.
Yeah, little does know, but
You prefer jeans or khakis? Like, Roland's going to start digging through his bag. I think I got something in your size.
So it did, yeah. Well, that was man. Finally, got a good roll. He looks at you two and goes, "Oh, I remember you two. You were arguing over the bag."
yeah, he was on the flight.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I didn't look like this. And he looks down at himself. I think I was, and then he kind of looks at all of you because he's, like I said, he's like 5'1".
That's about Ashlyn. So he's like eye to eye with Ashlyn.
Right.
She's like 5'2", 5'3".
Yeah. So he's like, I think I used to be taller.
Did I write down her
So-
notes somewhere?
So I think this is more about your inner essence theory, Ashlyn, because his job, by the way, he's a CPA, but he had a fursona.
I mean, I think he has a persona now.
Yes, that's what I was, and a little more manifest.
And he also
Inner self.
has spells.
That's true.
So
Wait, what did you
you're
say?
a
one more?
furry before you got here.
Well, earlier you said that he has a persona and can cast spells. Is that correct?
Oh, okay. Yeah. Is that what you asking Jonathan that?
Oh no, I was relating back to the
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So Ashlyn, you said you're a furry?
Before you got here, you were a furry. It didn't just happen along the way.
Yeah. Look, why don't you just tell everybody? Well,
Hey,
yeah.
we don't shame here.
Honey, ain't nobody here gonna even know what that means aside from the six of us.
Wait, I have a question.
I'm going to have an answer. Also, try these on. Roland's going to throw a pair of pants at him.
Who the fuck is that? Who is she?
She's an elf, as far as I can tell. And apparently she's
One of
some-
a kind. That's
Yeah.
what she is.
And she's judged.
somebody's apparently got a big crush.
No,
mean-
she's literally one of a kind.
There's no more?
Apparently not.
She doesn't have a twin
Though
sister.
some of the other peoples do get to that size. As tall and big as
I
she
was
is.
just thinking. I was just thinking more elf. And right about then, like the one hunting person who's a woman or girl, older girl, young woman walks by, and he just, everything he says, he just kind of just dies.
Great. We got a second.
Focus. There can only be
We
one
got a
person
second.
on the trip, and that's me.
We got a second.
And he looks back and he points.
Yeah, I know. There are a dime a dozen over here, dude. To like it, you got to focus.
Yeah, they're different peoples.
Wait, hang on.
Girls here?
Yeah,
Yes.
there's cat girls here.
Can you record Lamar saying that again? By the way, does anyone have a recorder?
I
This
have
is-
mine out.
Okay, good. Just making sure we got.
Oh yeah, find out. Are we speaking English to one another, or is it translating it into the whatever universal?
No, you're pretty much, well, the weird thing is you're all talking English to one another. There's like an echo in your head, but you've been talking. This has been going on long enough. You can kind of weed that out.
And
It's all-
I,
Also,
it's
I guess
actually-
it would be translating it for external listeners.
Well, it's really just the 5 of you right now, or 6.
but
Yeah, the surreal thing is that there's that translator effect actually helps when it's noisy. So it's like eternally having subtitles. So you're speaking English, but if it's really noisy, you still can kind of understand them because it's registering in your head what they're saying.
so
I was
one.
gonna say we stopped thinking about it until we came up with somebody else who speaks English.
Yeah, Edgar.
And other people did understand him though, so they did. So some translation was going earlier, although we heard that like a Jersey accent, right? So something there was a translation effect happening, although maybe not to us because we're speaking the same language. But the other thing I was going to say is the recording bit wasn't because that was really smart to record and see, but I was just mainly recording Lamar telling him to focus and pay attention and stuff. So that's what I was thinking.
Oh yeah, that could get
I was
you.
distracted by the booty like for about 15 minutes, and then Ned dropped it. All right.
Just saying.
So
I mean,
so,
right?
so-
And he starts like thinking back.
Roland's a lot taller than that poor guy, so he's having to roll up those cuffs.
oh yeah, so he's like putting on pants, and there's a moment where he kind of looks down and okay.
His name was
And he's
Edward.
like, wait,
Jonathan,
what do I do with the? I got a fucking tail.
I'm pretty sure Freya's got a knife, or Ashlyn does. I've got one somewhere.
What, you gonna
Ashlyn
cut my
doesn't trust
tail
me
off?
with knives.
No, I think he meant to put a hole in the pants for the tail.
Ah,
Oh, you know what? I've got a knife. He pulls out one of the all-purpose knives that he got from one of the sky people.
So, where am I?
We don't know.
Oh, thanks.
Technically, it's called Varava. I can't remember the name of the village.
the city of stone and steel.
Well, no, because we're in a village. No, we're in a village outside the city. We're not in the city yet.
Yeah, apparently the
It's-
region we're in is called Varava.
Do they all come with land speeders?
No, I
No.
stole this one from some people.
The city is Jamanaya.
That's the village. That's the one.
I'll tell you the story later. Just don't worry about it.
How long have you been here?
As
'Cause
long
you
as
were
we
at
have,
the
if he was
crash
on the
site
flight.
where we were.
So unlike most, unlike a lot of furries and Disney characters, he actually has 4 fingers and a thumb. So he holds his hand up and he's like, 3 days maybe? Like I woke up strapped to my seat and that was it. There was just a seat. And I didn't know what to do. And so I got out of the seat. And I was wandering around trying to figure out what I needed to do and where to go. And there was nothing. It didn't look like Bermuda at all. It's all farmland, and I couldn't smell the ocean. I mean, it's not that big of an island, and I got, felt kind of ill and feverish, and I ended up laying down. And then when I woke up, there was a crater, and all my clothes were gone, and there was I was in the bottom of like this crater, and I looked like this.
Were you at the front or the back of? You were at the back of the plane, weren't you? The tail was missing, if you remember.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's at the back of the plane. It's supposed to be
Well,
more
no,
likely to
that's
survive if you're at the back of the plane.
Mm-hmm. See,
I'm not sure how true that is, but
that they put the rich people in the front of the plane because those are the people that could sue you if the plane goes down. So that's why they wanted them to be gone. Boom.
Lamar, your speaking privileges are revoked.
That's fucking dark.
Look,
Am I
so
wrong though?
we've been here a lot longer than that. We've been here closer to,
Like 3 weeks, something like that.
well, no, closer to like 2, because they can't remember. We've been here for 3 of their 3 of their calendar weeks, I suppose, but that's only 15 of our days.
Although we don't know how long he was in whatever weird chrysalis state that turned him into a fox was either, though.
Oh, that's a good point.
So you're telling me he was like a fox caterpillar, like
Maybe.
in the chrysalis state?
Yeah,
I mean, none of us have changed shape. We don't know.
I'm standing right here. He's looking at you, Lamar. I'm standing right here.
Well, did you come out of the cocoon?
No,
All right.
I felt kind of feverish. I laid down. I woke up. The only thing that was around was some little pieces of metal, like a zipper, some buttons. Everything else pretty much gone.
Are you sure you weren't in a cocoon? Like made out of steel and zippers and buttons?
Well, the zippers and buttons probably came from the clothes he was wearing before.
Ah, gotcha.
Because you say you woke
Yeah.
up in as a foxkin with
Yeah,
out
for
clothes.
a brief moment, I was a giant fucking cockroach, and then I became a fox.
Oh, for real you were?
Lamar,
You don't understand sarcasm, do you, Lamar?
Have you read Kafka?
Oh, no, definitely not.
Fair enough.
I mean, the funny thing is, I kind of feel better. Like, healthier. I lost a lot of weight.
I wouldn't be surprised by that.
And I saw what I look like in a pool of water, in a pond, and I kind of look like my persona. I was in an online
if
game.
you want,
I was in
Ashton's
an
gonna,
online game. Oh,
pull out a compact and like open the mirror, clear view of himself.
and he's like, he starts running. I mean, his hair is actually pretty long, and he's like, "Fuck, I finally got long hair." He hands it back, and he starts running his hand. I mean, it's like down past his shoulders, and he's like, "This really is supposed to go into a braid or a ponytail. That's the way it was."
So
And he kind of freezes and looks
I got-
guiltily at all of you.
I got hair ties if you need them.
over here.
Yeah, the problem is I don't think I know how to tie my hair the way he did. I mean, Jonathan Roberts, it's a great golden age of piracy name. So I just named my persona, my character after myself, and it was a great online game. It was all mostly text-based, and he was going to the new world, and he was a practicing magician because we were using something based off furry pirates and captured by pirates, and they found out he could cast some spells. They kept him around to navigate and to predict the future and to look for valuables and treasure and all that. And he was trying to dress well. And I mean, it was a great game. He was living a life much better than mine.
Yeah, that explains a lot.
I got a question for you, Jonathan. Have
Yeah.
you tried casting a spell since you've gotten here? Out of curiosity.
Do I look like I have chalk?
Hey, anyone have chalk?
Yes.
Look at Ashlyn.
We've had enough trouble with spells.
Hey, I don't ever. Okay, so I know I use my magic a lot, but I don't think I've caused that many problems with my magic.
What kind of spells could your character cast? Let's ask that first. How's that?
And by next session, actually, he'll be slightly different because, as I said, I started putting points to everybody, and I'm looking at. I'm like, I want to change this a little bit. But he goes, well, a lot of it had to deal with circles of detection. So I could astrally project. And he actually, you realize too, he's gone from he to I, like he hasn't even realized he's done that. But he says, I could astrally project and I could take my mind's eye and like D&D clairvoyance. And I could try to you give me a set of cards or dice or sticks. I could do simple future predictions, things like that. Oh, and I could look at people's auras because that was part of the circle of the detection, and I could see whether they're ill or intended ill intent or happy, or also a great way of detecting supernatural beings. All really good kind. I mean, not combat spells, but we weren't playing D&D or Pathfinder. We were. It was more role play. And if anybody, like, he looks up to see if you guys are like anybody are lost or anything, and then finally looks at you all.
Yeah, Freya leans over to Ashlyn. Do you understand anything he's talking about?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that sounds relatively innocuous. So Ashlyn, I think you're probably the most responsible person and also have all the materials. What do you think about that?
All right. Well, just dig into her bag, pull out some like sidewalk chalk, like a box of the Crayola sidewalk chalk.
So Jonathan, think you can do something with this?
I guess. I don't. Well, this is always the kind of chalk I imagined he had. I mean, not that little blackboard chalk. We're talking a chunk of chalk from the White Cliffs of Dover, And he kind of looks around. So he's got this tunic on. He looks like he needs a bath. He looks like he needs a hot meal. You've given him a pair of pants that he's sort of struggling to put on or keep on. And he looks around. Now there is a small group, or maybe a couple, maybe a half dozen people who are at a distance watching all this going on with the mixture of people watching, looking at a car wreck, and people wondering, is with that fascination at a disaster slowly happening because they're not sure what you're all doing, and anything they can overhear, they don't understand a damn thing that you're going on about. And so he looks around like, no, well, now what?
Maybe later. Let's get inside. Let's get inside and get you something to eat.
That's very practical. You're right.
Food?
Yes, Lamar, food.
So you're sure they don't have any elves here other than...
There's
really.
a people that is similar, yes. I've seen a couple.
So there's these, and he's kind of like looks over his shoulder at the onlooker. So there's these colorful humans here.
Yeah,
Farming
they're called the farming people.
So there's farming people. There's cat girls.
Called the hunting people.
Yeah.
There was that priest guy that spoke from where that looked like he walked out of Final Fantasy. I'd be leaping people.
Yep,
How
one
many
of the leaping people?
How many of these peoples are there?
We don't know.
Not sure yet. We just kind of keep eating more of them every now and then. I believe that the farming people, the Wow, this is Ava. Mine going completely blank. Farming people have been the ones we've seen the most of, I think. I haven't like
Yeah, they're-
counted or nothing, but they're the most common.
Yep, we've even met the what was it? The water people they called them?
And the swimming people.
Yeah, swimming people. Yeah.
And the furred people, and the horned people, and the giant people. You want to avoid the giant people.
Yeah. They say that they're man eaters, so
And the running people.
The running people.
People made out of water.
Scale
They're-
people.
No,
made-
the water people more like well, similar to mermaids.
And he does put his hands right about here, like mermaids.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, but-
Mermaids.
But
Mer
their tails
people.
don't do this. They do this. They're like shark fins instead of whale fins.
No, they do whale. They do it like whales. You saw them
Oh.
swimming.
Okay, vice versa. So
Oh yeah, and sky people, and that's where
They
Sky
fish-
came from.
Well, back up. They had fish tails, but they swam with a vertical, not a horizontal. They swam like porpoises, but they had fish tails. But
Okay.
he's like, okay, you know what? I'm done. Food. I mean, I still
Yeah,
got
let's
my
go.
junk.
Great. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, you begin to realize I'm not going to try to do it too much, but he does have a pair of flaws, one of which is a bit salty language, and the other one, you probably begin to pick up on that one already too. And so he's just like, I like this idea of food.
How old are
Oh.
you, Jonathan?
What?
How old are you?
I mean, he's a
Out of
CPA, so
curiosity.
I actually have no idea how. I mean, he is. You know what? He's going to go. I was 32.
yeah, he's a little older than I am.
All right.
Ashlyn, we've crushed Athlin's expectations of man, I guess. You know what divination detection might be good for, though? Finding bandits. So we should keep that in mind when they're going to try to punish him. Let's go get some food.
Yeah, because she.
Captain
I mean-
Jeremy.
Captain Journey is essentially Judge Dredd, only nicer from what we've seen.
Better looking, too.
So she is.
Yeah,
the law?
that. Yeah, kind of.
Did you ever see Judge Dredd? Carl Urban was perfect. And are they ever gonna make a sequel? He wants
Ashlyn
to
is
make
going to, like, as he's talking, take him by the elbow and just, like, gently start leading him towards the inn.
Okay.
Yeah, Roland's gonna throw a shirt at him too. By the way, here,
Oh,
this is the
He's got
smallest one I have.
So he takes off this raggedy tunic, and he's not like starvation skinny, but he's got a very lean build, much like the cartoon Disney Robin
Robin
Hood.
Hood.
So yeah, and the interesting thing is he really does look like a human from what you can see, with a fox's head, and unlike say most Disney characters, he's got like a mop of hair on top of all that. The funny thing is, if you give me a quick second, I just remembered something. I got to find my fantasy characters that I created all those years ago.
Is it? I feel odd
There he
in that
is.
I can picture exactly what his persona looked like.
Me too.
He needs more hair, but long. There you go. Imagine that. Yeah, some guy a very long time ago, I created this character. There's a long story, and I never played it. It was just, if you ever saw my old Hero System website, I filled it with stuff because it was a way for me to really, really learn the system. And some guy was like, I'll do artwork. I'm going to do, October, I'm going to do a pick a day for people on the hero mailing list or hero message boards. And I was like, hey, do a picture of him. And that's what he drew me for free. And, but he has, that's with the hair like tied back. He's actually got much longer and sort of much more at this moment out of control hair. And he's like all of 5'1". And he puts on whatever shirt you give him, and he kind of like just drops this nasty looking raggedy tunic to one side, and Ashlyn, you start dragging him along, and he kind of realizes, and he kind of straightens up a bit, and actually like he reaches up and closes his own muzzle. That's fucking weird. What are we doing?
Getting something to eat.
All right, so
Okay.
I have a very serious question here because he smells real bad. You said, right? Like he hasn't washed in a while.
He could use a bath and a meal, and and he could use some clothing.
Okay, well he's got Roland's clothing doesn't fit well, but he's got at least something. But Roland's gonna walk up to him. He's gonna like tap him on the shoulder, and he's gonna say, "I love the rain. It washes everything away, makes it clean." He's gonna literally try and use his magic to make him clean. I don't know if there's a power for that in the book. I'm pretty sure it's something I could try and do.
So that is a good question. The one thing I would add, although I'd have to talk to Len about it because he may tell me use a different power. There is a form of change environment, which is if you look under light, there's another power called effect. So for 3 dice, because that's how many points effect is, you can generate a micro rainstorm or rainfall over him, and you might get Ashlyn a bit wet before she realizes, and he kind of stands there, and because it's your intent, he's kind of like, really? And then he realizes it's not because you're trying to do a shower, it's actually a bit warm, and he kind of starts running his hands through his hair, and he's sort of rubbing himself, and you can actually see some dirt wash out of him, and a puddle start to form, and he's kind of like rubbing his face and himself and his hair, and it makes him look a little more pathetic because now, of course, all that fur is washed down, and he has thicker fur. Like furred people have a very fine pelt, like what you would see in a Doberman or maybe like a lion. That really close body pelt. They're not shaggy. He, on the other hand, is a bit more fuzzy, and as he washes down, it's sort of it sort of clumps to him, so he looks a lot more pathetic and less like a bandit. So you've actually kind of helped him in a way too, but he does actually raise and sniff an armpit and all, and he's, oh, okay, you could have warned me, but that's better.
Yeah, could have warned me too.
Sorry, I wasn't expecting it to work, honestly.
This is why I say we have enough trouble with magic.
Well, let's can we get that food now?
Yes, if you'd ever get inside.
Right. And you start heading in, and
I'm
hold
getting
on a quick
headache.
moment.
Sorry.
So you get inside, and this point, you don't see the captain, but you do see. Oh, here, hold on. There we go. You do see a green-skinned, black-haired woman who comes out into the common area, and she's kind of got a cloth, and she's rubbing her hands, and she looks at all of you, and looks at Jonathan Roberts, and just kind of shakes his head, and she says, "Dear guests, please," and she points at a table, and you see the leaping person sitting there. Now he is, his hair is long and white. The rest of him is going gray. He has a kind of a long sleeve, longish linen tunic on. He's got a cotton overrobe, and he's wearing like what looks like a wool jacket. Not necessarily. It looks like it's a little thick for the weather, but it looks like he's also kind of like dressed himself up for all this. And he is sitting at a long table with a plate in front of him, and he sees all of you, and he also gestures to the table. And the woman comes up and says, "My name is Kanya. I see that you came in with the Lord's Commander's justice. Are you armsmen of hers?"
We're
Allies for the moment.
we came to help her out with the bandit problem y'all have been having. So I suppose yes, temporarily.
So she kind of looks at all of you, and Lamar, who's the only one who's actually like looks like he's got war gear, and she says, "Okay. What do you need food? Have you eaten?"
Food would be great, yes.
"I will bring out some plates." And she turns and walks away, and she yells out, you hear her yell out, "Bombin! Bombin, we have more guests." And you can see in the back another one of the leaping people who kind of nods. And then the hunting person comes out, and she basically brings a pile of like plates and starts setting those out, and she starts setting out cups, and she sets out a couple of jugs which apparently contain water, and she puts out like a thing of bread and cheese and something like a butter, and she starts shuffling things back and forth, which of course you watch it. I mean, unless you kind of give him a smack, Jonathan Roberts kind of just watches her go back and forth pretty intently. And eventually food starts being brought out.
Definitely.
You're not
give 'em
sure
a
what it
snack.
is. There's like what apparently is like roasted meats and something like a soup, and then a lot of vegetables that have been apparently like oven roasted type. And it's put in bowls in front of you, and you can take a spoon and put it onto your plate. And it's reasonably tasty and hot, and seems to be a lot of it.
Good soup.
Much obliged.
And once you start eating, the leaping person at the end of the table looks at you all and says, "Please, may I introduce myself?
Oh, of course.
I am Sarat. I serve Jamanaya here as a priest. I am the go-between between the world above and the spirit world. I thank you for helping this one." And Roberts has got his mouth full, and he's just like, "I do not think he is a bandit. I do not think he is with them. He is not the same."
Yeah. Yeah. That's very kind-hearted of you. I think this is the first time we're hearing of any spiritual-like beliefs.
I will note you've heard of some in passing, but this is like the first time you've like met somebody.
Yeah,
who
like
is apparently
organized.
Right.
Yeah.
He says, it is needed for, you must understand, the spirits, they are all about us. They inhabit the water, the trees, the fields. There is almost certainly one that inhabits this inn. And he points, and you can see over on a wall, there's like a little tiny house. I mean, it looks like a little roofed house door and such, and there's some bowls in front of it. And he gestures at that, and it looks very much. I mean, you would probably say it looks like a shrine. Not sure to what, but there's all this little stuff in front of it.
I'll say, whisper to Roland, it seems analogous to Shinto.
It kind of does. Would it be remiss if I could go over and inspect the, or would that be some sort of offense to the spirits?
If you wish, you should offer perhaps food and drink, so that the spirit of this inn will be satisfied. I would not take anything until it is gone, until it has been eaten. I would not take a bowl until it is empty.
I merely wish to examine it, mostly. But I'd be willing to give a small offering.
Some meat, some drink. If you wish something of the spirit, you may ask it of it.
No, I believe just giving an honor to the spirit at this point would probably be best. If it's the spirit of the inn, then maybe a restful night for myself and my companions.
A good choice. If you have more complex matters, I can assist.
What
I would
is
like to.
it?
Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
No, go ahead.
Roland's saying, I would like to speak to you at length about this at some point. This is the first time I've had the chance to speak to someone who is dedicated to the spirits since we arrived. It's similar to my field of study from my time in the university.
If you wish instruction upon the nature of spirits within Varava, I can tell you what I know.
Are they only in Varava? Outside of Varava, we haven't come across any temples or the like yourself.
I have not journeyed beyond this land. I do not know the customs of others or what they believe, but I assure you that. And he kind of pauses. As I have learned, there are spirits that inhabit the world around us, perhaps in the earth, in the water, in a tree, or a formation of stones, in a tool that is well used, in a home or an inn that has stood for some time. Those who have come before us, when they die, they may return as a spirit to guide us. I do not know what beliefs other lands have. Perhaps the same, perhaps different.
That's rather more open-minded than many of the religious beliefs back home.
It is not my place to pass judgment on others. It is mine to act as a messenger between the physical world around us, and he's sort of gesturing at everything, and he points not at the ground, but sort of with his other hand, he points at the rest of the world and the spirit world. And let's see. And Jonathan leans, because he's probably sitting next to you, Ava, leans over, and with his mouth semi-full goes, "They're animists."
Don't talk with your mouth full.
Chew, 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 swallow, drink. They're animists.
Yeah.
Which, Edgar, you're like, yeah, that's what Shinto is. And Lamar, who's falling asleep on us, would be like, yeah, that's like all the stuff in anime. They've probably got the ropes. You know, where's the ropes and the paper charms and all that?
And then to like spill water from a holy bucket or whatever on a rock, stuff, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You're totally right. By the way, my bad.
I totally understand. There's been some nights where I'm just dead exhausted, and there was at least one time where we had to cancel because I had vertigo, and my players were all like, "We're quitting because you can't concentrate," and I just had to go quit. Fortunately, though, my therapy, the physical therapy I do every day about noon, seems to be getting my inner ear back on track. But I was out of it for like hours one day. Not fun at all. Also, that's why I try not to move my head too fast, because that used to induce it. Not fun. Do not. For all our viewers at home, never get an inner ear infection. It can make you utterly miserable. So, about this point, Journey comes back, and you can kind of hear her. She doesn't rattle like a bucket of bolts, but it's not the most quietest clothes that she has on. And she comes back. Actually, she comes downstairs. So at some point, she must have been shown a room. She still has all her armor on. She doesn't have her helmet. She still has her sword on. And she sort of stops at the end of the table and looks and kind of has her hands in front and looks down at all of you and looks down at Roberts. You have been speaking with him, and starts talking to you, Ava. For Ashlyn. You have been speaking with him.
Yes,
He is from your land.
he is.
And Robert's kind of got this once again. I'm sitting right here, look, but he kind of like looks up and then shuts up. There is much to do and learn in this village. May I leave him in your care?
Yeah. We'll take responsibility for him.
So she reaches to her belt, and you see her, like, she basically works some little metal clasp and takes out and looks in her hand and then sorts and drops a coin. And anybody looking at it, it's about the size of a quarter. But the one thing you all realize is that's not silver. That is gold. And it's got a patterning on each end. It's obviously been stamped, and it just sort of clunks there on the table. And she puts her hand back in her pouch, and she pushes this little, it's maybe not even a quarter, maybe the size of a quarter and thinner than a quarter. And she pushes it over and says, "Give this to Kanya. This will pay for your rooms and your meals and any trouble he may cause." And she does. And actually, for a moment, Jonathan does the Neil deGrasse Tyson meme, except as opposed to we got a badass over here. He's like, I didn't do anything. And then she actually basically drags a chair over and sits down and says, She says, Master Roberts, I have not yet decided your judgment. But Kanya speaks well of you. I think for a time you may work here. And she basically drops another coin down. Says, that should pay for the cheese and pie that you stole and ate. And I think a little work will do you good. Now, from what they say, there is perhaps 40 of these bandits. And there are, and she looks at basically the 5 of you, Roberts, and tilts her head like, I'm not sure. That makes perhaps 6 of us.
Well, we have home ground advantage.
And while I don't carry a traditional weapon, I'm pretty good at dealing with large numbers.
And Kanya says you made it rain outside. And you, Master Lamar, carry a blade. And you carry it in such a way that I think you know how to use it.
Oh yeah. I'm a man of few talents. All right. One of them is cutting stuff.
Have you seen actual battle?
I've dabbled.
Yes.
He just kind of like looks around.
The wagon that we have, well, it belonged to a group of sky people. And after fighting off from the village we were at,
I know of the Sky People. This is where I've seen your wagon before. I have seen things in the night sky. Not often. But I've seen them high in the air at night. They look like the blade of a knife, or an arrowhead, or a spear.
yeah.
And you, Master Roberts, do you have any skill at arms? And he kind of like deer in the headlights look. And he looks over at you, Ashlyn, and says, well, Versada knew how to fence, but I don't know. Would I know how to fence?
Possibly. I assume so.
Do I tell her I can cast? I don't know if I can cast spells. Should we find out now?
Please not in the middle of the inn.
We should go somewhere to find out, though. We at some point, because that could be useful with finding the bandits as well.
Like we are, he is. Well, perhaps we haven't tested it yet. Has wonder worker abilities as well. But we don't know exactly which abilities yet. He
Apparently.
arrived here like we did, which is when we all found out about our status as wonder workers, I suppose. And he hasn't had enough time yet to find those out. Does that make any sense?
Yes. I think so.
Okay.
Well, Master Roberts, we do not have much daylight left. And if you wish to show or discover what abilities you have, perhaps now is the time. I will not attempt such demonstration here in the inn. We will go out back. And she stands, and Jonathan Roberts kind of stands up, looking very nervous, and looking for. Basically, he's latched sort of on you, Ashlyn, because for assurance. And
She's the mom
Sarat,
of the group.
yeah, Sarat stands up as well, interested in what's going on, and so Journey walks. Basically, turns out you can go out through a back door past what looks to be kitchen, and there's something like a bar or a counter, and out of the common room and out back. And out back, there's pretty much a big open area. There's a stables for animals. There's an area for wagons, and there's a couple other buildings that look like maybe they do basic carpentry or basic, like a little bit of basic smithing, probably horseshoes and things. And she sort of stands there and manages, whether or not you can believe it's possible, she does sort of cross her arms, giving you an idea exactly how articulated what she's wearing is. And Sarat sort of stands next to her and kind of does this bit where he puts his arms into the sleeves of his coat, so they sort of disappear in there. And he just sort of stands there and watches. And Roberts comes over, and he's like, "What?"
Just, well, get in character.
Get in character. Okay. And he like goes into his pockets and pulls out the big chunk. Well, what do you want? What do you need? What do you want to know? What do you want me to try casting?
You said you could do divinations, right? Check people's auras.
Yeah, do that.
Well, look, I mean, if you want me to tell fortunes, I'm gonna need, I don't know, sticks or shells or probably tarot cards, because I kind of know those. But I mean, if you want me to look at auras, yeah, hold on. And what he does, he sort of kneels down and he draws in a surprisingly accurate circle. You're not sure if that's really skill or something else is at play. And then he puts the chalk down in front of him and sits and raises his hands, and he starts going through some sort of ritual, and he's rattling off Dresden-style Latin. Dresden files, like, you know, almost a little, a little pseudo-Latin Harry Potter.
Yep.
Is this fucking Miss Cleo on us right now?
Let him. I have to quote movies. Let him do his thing.
And
apparently, music works too, by the way.
And presumably, at one point, he probably wrote out incantations and seems to know them for his character. And he ends up sitting there, his hands in his lap, his eyes closed, and he opens his eyes, and he looks around. Actually, he looks over at Captain Gierney, and he actually like closes his eyes and puts his hands over his eyes. And you can hear him like, "Oh shit, that was a mistake." And he's rubbing his eyes. And actually, let me. So this is I actually have dice and all this power. You know, I got these powers all broken out. Yeah, that's pretty good. So he turns away, and he ends up looking over at you, Ashlyn, and he says, "Oh, that's better. Oh, I thought I was blind for a minute there. You know, you've got a really nice, warm, welcoming aura."
I've been told similar in the past.
I don't believe it.
I do.
That's...
And so, you know what? he looks over at you because you said you basically dumped rain on him and seemed to indicate you could do magic. Roland, what would your R be? It doesn't have to be super elaborate, but it's obviously going to be like colors, like old Krillian photography type stuff. So what does he see?
So Roland's aura is unusual because most of it is like muted tones, except around like important places like his heart, his head, his hands. And if Roland were to try casting magic, then it would sort of flare up. But for the most part, it's around the places where he places his own importance. His mind, his own strength of will, his heart, things like that. And then, of course, because he's done so much research in the field, he's placed importance in his own hands too.
Okay.
But it's muted everywhere else, but those places there, it's like this bright, like color. It's hard to place because it doesn't look like it was part of him to begin with. Almost like he's borrowing from other people.
Okay. Yeah. So he does look at you, and he utters something that may or may not make any sense to anybody, but he goes, "Wow, that's different. I thought magic was green."
Because since I have to quote stuff, I'm pretty sure I'm borrowing my ideas from other people. At least that's what I get.
Yeah, but that's and he is going to look now. Who's standing next to Roland?
I would.
Buddy.
Why not?
Lamar, what is he? So he looks at you. What would he see?
He would be blinded. My aura would be blind. It would be so bright. My heart is ablaze. Just no. He would just see a bunch of, I don't know, just like have you ever seen The Last Dragon?
Yes.
Yeah.
You got the glow?
Got the glow. Yeah. So it'd be just kind of like that. But he's not too in tune with his glow at the moment. He
Your mind and spirit are going north and south.
Yeah, there we go. Boom.
So he kind of recoils from you, Lamar, and he's like, "Whoa, man, that's bright." Okay, enough of that.
Like my future? Yeah.
And he's sort of, all right, well, that worked.
Nice.
Should I charge admission or something? You're all staring at me.
No, thank you.
You said you. Let's test out your fencing ability.
Wait,
Lamar,
what was that, Ashlyn?
Let's test out your fencing ability.
Okay. You got a small sword?
Yes, Ashlyn would hand him. She grabbed one of the knives from the Sky People.
That's a knife. That's not a small sword.
Roland's got one of the small swords.
Yeah, he looks at that and he goes, "That's not." He.
Closest thing I've got,
it's a European long, like a straight sword that's in between, kind of like a long knife and a rapier. It's in that range.
This is the closest thing I've got because he's got one of the short swords that they took from the Sky People.
All right. That's him, and he holds it. Well, what do you want me to do?
Lamar, you want to spar?
he points back at Captain. You don't want me to?
Oh no, not with her. We're gonna have fun for a little bit.
Actually, at that point, Jeremy steps up and says, "All if you wish to try his sword skill, I would ask perhaps that I be his first opponent.
I mean, sure, by all means, go for it.
I do not wish to see an accident have him hurt. Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Wait, why do you have
Understandable.
3 swords?
Because 3-sword style is the best style
Because he's a
in,
lead.
in any universe, I guess.
And Jonathan's got this like, what? And Captain Gierney looks down at you, or she's taller than you, I think. And she looks at you like, did I just hear him say 3-sword style?
You did.
She doesn't say anything. This is just the body language. Did I just hear that correctly? And she
Ashley just
basically,
kind of nods.
yeah, she draws her blade, and it's a serious sword, and brings it out and looks at him. And Jonathan gets into what's interesting. He doesn't get into an Olympic fencing stance, which is this. He actually gets into sort of a more squared off stance, and he's almost looking like. And he looks at his hand and he looks over at you and says, "You got a glove? You got a really heavy, like a welder's glove in your bag?"
Roland takes off one of his gauntlets. Here you go.
And he puts it on. And he, interesting enough, he gets into a stance, blade forward, but he's got this hand, this gauntleted hand, almost open. And Gierney draws, and she gets into a stance that may not make any sense to you, but basically she puts her feet into a T and then steps forward about a shoulder width, and she's got her sword up on her shoulder like it's a baseball bat. And she's actually standing. She's got her left hip and her left shoulder pointed at Jonathan Roberts, and she does look like she looks like she should be batting the way she's standing. And he comes in, and I tell you what, who wants to roll for him?
I'll do it.
All right, so you're going to roll 8 dice. Let's see here. I need to do a little math.
Oh, I got 5 successes.
All right. Well, I'm going to auto success that. I'm not going to roll. And in case anybody's like, what? Basically, I am going to take my dice, take the half of that, round up, and that's an auto success, which is 1 success for every 2 dice. You guys can do this too when you have enough dice. So what she does, he basically comes in and he does a lunge, and what she does very interestingly, she takes her foreleg and steps back, and she brings her sword down, doesn't aim at him at all, but basically 2 hands just clacks it away, and he kind of comes up again, and they proceed to exchange. He basically does some basic thrust, like he's trying to figure out how to get around 4.5 feet of steel. Lamar, you can tell, actually, what's interesting is he gets into this. First of all, he seems to know what he's doing. It's a different style of fighting. It's a small sword is more of a thrusting, cutting weapon. The other interesting thing is that you would notice that everything Journey does, there's like not a single wasted motion. Whatever she does is basically nothing flashy, nothing. She's not showing off. Everything that she does is basically the minimum to block his weapon. And she doesn't. And you also realize there's like, oh, she could. There's points where you probably like, well, she could, because longsword fighting like she's doing is very much like using a katana. There's like, well, she could riposte there. She could. Nope, she doesn't do any of that. She shifts. She also moves, keeps her feet. Never really lifts her feet. She slides her feet whenever she moves. Her shoulder. Anybody watching, her shoulders never really bob or weave. Her head and her vision is almost entirely on him, and she's way taller than he is. So she basically keeps her back straight, but her sword often stays down. And occasionally she does things like she gets into the Seven Samurai dual stance where the sword is back behind her, and then she'll just bring it up and like blink and then bring it back down. And after a few moments, Roberts is sort of puffing, and she hasn't like broken a sweat. And he finally stops and says, "Wow, I kind of knew what I wanted to do there. Like I sort of had an idea."
Don't feel bad. She's been doing this for like 300 million years or something like that.
Can I have my gauntlet back? It's part of my armor.
Well, and also the other thing is that she never struck at him. She just blocked everything he did. But he like, oh yeah, and he's here, and then takes it off. And then
back. It's like you move well. You move well, my man.
Yeah, I mean, there's no way I could have done that back home. I felt really good about it all.
And he's kind of and he looks at her and is like, so yeah. Is there like a particular name of your swordsmanship? Like, is it like the school of the water lily or whatever kind of crazy shenanigans is?
She tells you that she was initially trained by and she gives a name, Captain, and she has trained with and worked with a variety of sword masters in the use and how to fight with. And interestingly enough, whatever she says translates to long sword.
Okay. Do you guys like call out your names of your special attacks or anything when you do them?
No.
Okay.
As much as it might seem like it, Lamar, we are not in an anime.
I mean, you say that, but all of this stuff could easily be in One Piece.
I think we're given the link that literally anything could be in One Piece.
This is true, including this world.
Ashton like pulled out her sketchbook like during the fight, and she was like furiously drawing particularly Journey's starting stance.
If anybody's really interested, actually, what really made me understand how she looks like fighting, there is a video that I absolutely love on YouTube because it has one of the smoothest and coolest disarms I have ever seen, which shows some guys who I think they're in Czech Republic or such, but they basically are doing the HEMA thing, and they do a number of steel reenactment fights showing how it would look. And one of the things that they do, slight diversion here because it's so awesome, I'll have to find it, but there's one of the things that they do is where they show their stances and then they show the sword manual stances from like 13 or 1400. And so you see how what was drawn in the manual would look live which is very similar. There's manuals like that in Japan, which you can do the same thing with. You stand like this, you do this, and yeah, it's interesting because the way she moves, she's wearing 60 to 80 pounds, probably somewhere between 60 and 80 pounds of steel, and she sort of floats and moves very easily. You suspect she's reasonably strong, she's reasonably agile, and she's reasonably has a good reasonable has a reasonable level of endurance. Like, this doesn't seem to slow her down at all, but she's also not moving particularly fast in all this. And when it's all over, she looks over at you, Lamar, and says, "Perhaps tomorrow you can demonstrate for me this 3-sword style."
Sure. Santorio.
And Jonathan pipes up with, "You only got 2 hands. How the hell do you use 3 swords?"
Oh, show up tomorrow and you'll find out.
And at that point, he looks at you, Ashley. "Do I really want to?"
So if we're done here, hey, Edgar,
What's up?
I want to go talk to that priest. Do you want to come with?
He's
Yeah.
right there.
Oh yeah, he's here. He's out here.
I'm aware he's here, but I want to have a more in-depth conversation. I don't think this will be interesting to anybody else.
I
Unless
mean,
I take that back.
Wait, what happened?
my computer had a hiccup and I stopped getting audio, so I had to leave and come back into the chat.
Oh, okay.
I mean, unless you're interested, I just didn't think you would be.
I'm just saying you're talking about him like he's not standing right there. And he's got a name.
I'm bad with names. I apologize.
Surat. So yes, would you like to also talk with Surat?
Thank you.
So Jonathan, his last, we'll say to you, Ashlyn, before we continue. Well, if I could do that, I mean, it means I can astrally project and I have clairvoyance.
Possibly.
Ah, that's kind of amazing.
So I've got 2 comments on that. One is, Roland, you might need to create some anti-peeping spells. So that's the first comment based on some reactions that we've seen earlier today. Second, sorry,
Some anti what?
peeping, because he can actually project. Number 2, might be able to find the bandits also, or use his divinations to help us figure out when they're going to attack.
Seems like a plan to me. I mean, unless somehow Freya has something to contribute that she hasn't been admitting to. I find it hard to believe that every single one of us has got something and she doesn't. But, if she insists she doesn't, then, moving on.
You're muted.
Freya stays quiet, but she kind of gives Ashlyn a look. But yeah, she doesn't say anything.
So do you want to try the divination first, or do you want to go talk to Surat first?
Maybe Surat. He's going to look at Surat. Surat, would you like to watch what he does? This might be interesting. It may have some kind of help. Well, it may be interesting to you. I'm not sure how you feel about this.
It seems that your companion can perhaps has some connection with the spirit world. Is there more you wish to learn from him?
I'm interested in watching.
It's not my place to say what he and you should or should not do. In fact, I am here to serve the Lord Commander's justice. And if there's anything she needs of me, I will do that.
Well, I would like to see this. Then, if you don't have a problem, I'd like to learn more about the spirits.
I will be more than happy to educate you on the nature of spirits and their ways. It is possible, in time, your wagon may develop a spirit, and if so, you should learn how to properly appease it.
Wait, what? Never mind.
I'll have to keep that in mind.
So wait, you want me to try something else now?
Why not?
Yes, I believe it would be good to know the limitations of your abilities before it becomes a possible life and death situation. And you rely on something that you might not be able to actually do.
Okay. Well, I mean, my character could, tell fortunes with like a deck of cards, but I don't know if that's going to be all that helpful. I mean, that's not unless you want to know where to find your car keys.
Wait, hold on. That could be useful. Do we know if any personal possessions were stolen?
And Surat says, they took food. They seem to be more hungry than greedy.
Yeah, there's no accounting for the food they took. Because if they took a personal possession, we might be able to use that to use his abilities to locate it.
If we need a guinea pig, he can see if he can get a reading off of me.
What kind of? And Jonathan looks at you. What do you mean? Like another aura reading, or do you want to?
Well, you
want me to astrally project, or?
You said like you can divine things, like you can like touch my hand and see if you can, I don't know, see something about me. She's basically wanting him. She wants to basically touch him without saying that she wants to touch him because she wants to see if she can get a vision off of him, without letting everybody know that that's what she's doing.
Okay. He's like, I'm not sure that works, but we can try. I mean, yeah, hold on. Ah, there it is. Needs less mail and more plate, but that's an idea of what the captain is dressed in.
Nice.
So he says, well, okay. I can't leave the circle, which he basically goes back to where the circle is. And he says, let me bring the spell back up again. I think you can step into the circle.
Okay. Freya will walk up and step into the circle and put her hand on his shoulder.
Okay.
And she's going to try to get a vision off of him while he's seeing if he can get a vision off of her.
Right. What he's going to do is he's going to basically recreate the aura to see what your aura looks like, which you can tell me in a moment. And what are you trying to get off of him?
I want to see, or I want to try to see how he got here. Like, I want to
Okay.
try to see exactly how he got here, and or how he turned into a fox.
All right. So I'm going to describe that, and then you can give me an idea what your aura looks like to him.
Okay.
I'll make a note of it. What you get is a series of images in a sort of jumbled montage. So you can see the airplane, you can see the seats, you can see him getting in it now. You don't see him, but you obviously it's his POV, and you see the plane with all the people in it. You actually realize that he has kind of looked at some of your companions, whether he visually recognized them, but you having been with them for significantly longer, you're like, oh yeah, there's Lamar, there's us, there's some bunch of other people. There's like this mousy woman buried in a book. There's some guy who kind of looks like every Hollywood techie type. He's got the beard and glasses. He actually looks like every Gen Con gamer stereotype. There's a scattering of other individuals, and then he sits down and he gets himself in, and he's got his iPad and he's reading something. Doesn't fully register exactly, and then there's that sort of putting everything away, and the plane is full of light and flashing, and there's like this green glow, and then that blinks out, and then there's a bit where you can see he was not kidding. It's just his seat, and he's still in it, and he's kind of got his hands, and it's sitting upright, and he's got his hands on the rests. And he disconnects it and gets up, and he's looking down, and he obviously has lost a lot of weight. Not that he was like super obese, but he certainly wasn't 100 pounds or so then. And he's sort of patting himself down and looking around, and you see what looks like landscape sort of around where you are. You don't see any farms or anything specific like that. And there's this sort of jumbly montage of him walking around, and he ends up at a stream, and he's desperately drinking water and washing him, all this, and then he sort of sinks down, and the vision is blurry at this point, and he basically curls up under some fern-like plants, and the next viewpoint is his hands, which are the hands he has now. So they're furred, like black claw-like, fingernails, claws. He kind of looks down. He's not wearing a stitch. He's sort of running his hands up all and down, and you can get the impression that he's talking, and he's just sort of completely panicking, and he's running his hands up on his head and everything, and his hair is falling down, and then there's a shot where he's looking into the stream where he collapsed. Like there's a pool there, and he's looking at his face, which is what he looks like now, and he's looking at a crater, a almost perfectly circular hemisphere in the dirt, and he's picking out like eyelets, little metal eyelets from from shoes, like a rubber sole, a zipper, what is elastic, probably from underwear, buttons that are plastic, but and like threads that you guess are probably polyesters and all that, but and that there's like a lot of his clothing, if he was wearing cotton, linen, wool, anything like that, it's all gone. Leather, gone, and there's just indigestible bits. And then later he's kind of walking along, and you realize he's in the outskirts of the village, and he's sneaking around, and he sees like somebody has set something out by a window, and it's reasonably, he touches it, it's not super hot, he grabs it, and just starts wolfing down food, and that's pretty much when the vision cuts out.
Okay.
So What's Freya's aura?
Her aura is probably deep blue, with little like spikes of red here and there. When she's done with all this, if she can, she wants to go over by Roland and she's gonna put her hand on his arm and she wants to give him that vision without saying a word.
Okay.
And then when it's done, she's just gonna walk away like she didn't do anything.
So, yeah, Freya comes over to you, Roland, puts her hand on your arm, and then you see everything I've just described.
And once it's over, I just take my hand off and walk away. Walk to the other side. Over by Ashlyn.
So how does it look to an outside observer? Does it look like your hand is kind of lingering a little bit as you're walking past?
Oh, I stop and put my hand on his arm and just stand there while he's watching the vision, and then I just walk away like I didn't do anything.
I'm gonna elbow Edgar. I'm like, you see that?
No, what I miss?
She's over here like being all touchy little Roland. All right, I see it.
Really? Yeah. Okay.
Hey, you see this?
I guess that's what I would say.
All right. So, what did you get there, friend? Jonathan?
Oh, she's mostly blue with like red spikes.
Huh. Interesting.
But you couldn't like. That's all you saw from me. You didn't get any like visions or anything like that.
Like any visions of you?
Yeah.
Well, I was looking at your aura, like you asked.
Okay, I was just checking. I am gonna lean over to Ashlyn and say, "Can I have some hand sanitizer, please?"
Yes.
Thank you.
She's back to like working on refining her sketches of Jirani, so she'll like pause for a second and pull out like a little travel size hand sanitizer because of course.
Thank you.
Doesn't even need the magic part of the bag for that.
One's like she touched him. He's like gives her the look. Like, really?
No idea what you're talking about. That's the look that she gives back.
Like,
No idea.
like asking for hand sanitizer after she touched Roland. Like, really?
No.
You think I'm dirty?
No, not because of Roland. Because of the fox. She had to touch the fox too.
That's how it looks to Roland, though.
Oh yeah, sorry. Sorry. Freya's not sorry.
After like she gets the hand sanitizer back, she'll like reach into her bag again, a little bit deeper, and pull out tarot cards for the fox. Because he said he could use that for his divination, and that could help us prepare for the bandits, as Edgar's been saying.
I mean, he does have a name. He's not just the fox, okay?
That wasn't out of character, okay?
Oh, okay. His name is John. It's like really.
You said you can do foretelling of the future, right?
Well, usually yes, no, maybe.
I don't know. Can you repeat the question? You're not the. Sorry. Am I the only Malcolm in the Middle fan? Yes, no, maybe. Lamar's just looking around at the group like dumbfounded that no one knows this staple.
I'm sorry, staple of what, Lamar?
You never watched Malcolm in the Middle?
I mean, some.
Okay, never mind. He's just gonna shake his head. No one.
Ashlyn's going to ignore all of that and hand Jonathan the tarot cards. And can you see anything about the recent near future of the village regarding the bandits.
What do you want to know?
I suppose it's a bit more than a yes, no, or maybe, but
Right, but you see, this isn't. You can't
yeah, I know.
say.
I'm aware.
Oh, okay.
But let's see. Well, I suppose they took mostly food, right? If you
Yeah.
look at Surat.
He nods.
So if they are just hungry, that might be a good testing the waters question. See what you get from that. If they are they just hungry, or is there some other reason behind what they're doing? 40's a rather large group.
And they burned down the barn. Which seems odd.
That sounds more like intimidation to me,
And Surat
especially
says
if no
with
one
it,
was injured.
they wish to indicate that I believe that was so that we would have food for them next time to prove the seriousness of their intent. Let's see. So he goes, that's kind of an open-ended question. I mean, I don't know if that's the future. Are they just hungry?
I have a question. Could you determine if we picked a direction and went? Could you determine if we might find them in that direction?
Yeah, that probably would work.
Okay. So, Surat, do you know which direction they went when they left the village?
Sunset.
All right, Roland's going to point towards sunset. That way. If we go that way.
These are some definite plot savvy dice. 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8
Whoa.
successes. He says, and basically he starts laying it out, and he just looks at you and goes, "Yeah. If you go to sunset, they're gonna." Don't you mean west?
Don't worry about it.
No compasses here.
Yeah, I could show you mine. It just spins.
Go. Oh, your compass. Okay.
No, seriously, I have an actual like compass for like going places.
That's good.
Right.
That's good. That it was a
Right.
compass. That's all.
Okay. Yeah. Show you mine. I'm not going to show. Never mind. Yeah, Roland. Really, if you take and he basically does like how the cards are laid out. That definitely. They're definitely to somewhere to sunset, and he's like says it with a. I guess I'm doing this right. Sunset. You want me to look that way?
Astral, you mean?
Oh, well, astral, like I take myself out of my body and I kind of fly, but I don't know if that's faster or if the clairvoyance, because I can just sort of, clairvoyance is like a eye and what's interesting at this point, Captain Giorni is standing there, sort of one hand on her hilt and the other one sort of on her hip, and she is listening extremely intently to all this. But he's not really paying attention, or he's talking more to Roland and Ashlyn and sort of Edgar. And he's like, it's like an eye that I can just put out somewhere. I'm not sure which is faster. I think the eye moves. We can try one way or the other. I know if I project astrally, this body is just going to collapse. Did you guys ever read Dresden Files? Sort of the same way. Your body's not moving while the spirit's running around.
Familiar
think
with the concept, yes.
The clairvoyance, I could probably still talk to you.
Maybe try that one first.
It's 10 o'clock.
Yeah,
And at this is actually a good break point because I can
it
prepare a little
is.
bit better. But effectively, we will cut as he starts this clairvoyance spell, and Journey is right with you. She's sort of looming over some of you or standing there and is extremely interested now that he says he can like look at things very far away. And we will pick up. Unfortunately, I've been told we will be down a player. But next session will be the 14th of July. And I almost feel like borrowing from Girl Genius, and next session will be God, sorry. Somebody just told me they have an extra badge for the expo. Maybe I'll go by Sunday or Saturday. Anyways, just distracted me. I think we could almost go like Girl Genius and call it Jonathan Roberts and the Far-Seeing Eye. His next session. Either that. Unfortunately, if we had 6 players, I would call it the Jayanama 7 because it's such a perfect. But there's only 5 of you, so we only have like technically 6 heroes, unless Jonathan really counts. In which case, there is 7.
Yeah.
Much love, everybody.
Be back in 2 weeks, folks.
Yep.